He didn't do anything. He didn't even stop to listen. He didn't do anything. He didn't even stop to listen. The two gods' holy state powerhouse S were crippled. Everyone turned to look at Long Fei. At this moment, Long Fei's indifferent expression, full of contempt, was like that of a cow trying to stand on its head. To be able to act cool without making a sound, that was the highest realm of posturing. How preposterous! Rumble! An elder's energy burst out like it was on fire. His body bounced up from the ground and then heavily rushed out. Boom! It directly landed on Long Fei's head. His right hand moved. A huge cold blade appeared in his hand. The cold blade flashed. The 10,000-strong blade images covered the sky and covered the earth, fiercely slashing down towards the top of Long Fei's head. I want to see if you'll die or not. Walala! The cold blade pierced through the void, and the ear-piercing sound of space ripping apart rang in the air. Everyone was crushed by this powerful blade, chi, to the point that their hearts and minds trembled. Now that kid is dead. Saber Elder, the pavilion master of the Holy King's Sex Martial Pavilion. Who can resist his saber? The cultivation level of the Overlord realm, the blade technique of the War God stage. If the two types of power are combined, that brat is definitely going to die. Let's see how he can continue acting cool. Let's see how he can still act so arrogantly then. Many people were secretly delighted when they saw the cold blade fall. The Holy King City were all members of the Holy King sect. Long Fei acted so arrogantly in the Holy King City, and he wants to leave? This was too much. No one liked being in a shameful place. Therefore, they were all looking forward to Long Fei's death. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions rang out in the shattered void as he used both hands to wield his saber and slash down. Buzz! A blade slashed down on Long Fei's head. It did not fall. Long Fei was still walking forward step by step and was not affected at all. The blade was stuck in the center of the blade like a string stripes, unable to advance any further. Not only that, the knife was cracking. Creak, creak. Cracks continued to appear. It lasted less than 3 seconds. Walala! The huge frost blade shattered. It did not shatter, but turned into powder. What kind of power was this? Zhu Qinggong's eyes tensed up. Elder Dao's eyes were filled with rage. His eyeballs seemed as if they were going to pop out at any moment. Both of his fists trembled. Boom! Boom! The overlord power on his fists surged. Staring at Long Fei's back, he felt as if he had received a huge insult and roared out. Bang! With a single step, the ground ruptured, and he immediately rushed behind Long Fei, saying solemnly, "Die!" At this moment, Long Fei suddenly stopped and gently exhaled. Truly annoying. He turned around slightly. He raised his eyes and looked at the Blade Elder, then looked at Zhu Chenggang, who was not far away. In an instant, shwa, he opened up his 5 fingers and moved. It directly landed in front of Zhu Chenggang. Long Fei looked at Zhu Chenggang coldly and said, "Don't provoke me. I don't like killing people." As soon as he finished, a body fell down from the sky. It was the Saber Elder. His fist fell down, and then he had no idea what was going on. When he opened his eyes, he was already in midair. Long Fei gently raised his right leg, which was like a fixed ball, and instantly got Elder Dao to step on it. Bam! His head shattered and fresh blood spurted out. The ground shook instantly as well. Long Fei stared into Zhu Qinggong's eyes again and said indifferently, "Do you understand?" An incomparably powerful force. It was incomparably savage. This kind of arrogance was not arrogance, but a kind of arrogance filled with contempt, as if Long Fei was a god and they were humans. They were completely different worlds. It was a completely different kind of power. Complete domination. Zhu Qinggong's mind trembled a little, as if he couldn't bear the formless aura emitted from Long Fei's body. Gudong! He heavily swallowed his saliva. His mind was frantically thinking, who was Long Fei, and where did he come from? Universal Realm did not have such a ferocious person. Could it be someone from God's tribe? That's not right. The people of God's tribe would definitely not be as low-key as him. If they were the people of God's tribe, he would have made all of them kneel on the ground a long time ago. Who could it be? The powerhouse that came from the ancient world? Impossible. All of the powerhouses that came out were currently in the shrine. Zhu Chenggang calmed himself down and asked, "Can I know your name?" He asked very carefully. If it was a god tribe or a powerhouse that came from ancient world, then he could not afford to offend them. Long Fei said, "If you know my name, you won't provoke me anymore." Zhu Chenggang replied, "No." Long Fei said, "Long Fei." It wasn't loud, but the two words Long Fei were like a thunder from a clear sky and instantly exploded in the air above Holy King City. In that instant, everyone's eyes suddenly opened wide, staring straight at Long Fei. It was as if Long Fei was their archenemy. Zhu Chenggang's pupils rapidly shrank as he looked at Long Fei with a gaze that was like a ray of light. Taoist Master Lu cried out involuntarily, "Dragon Clan's Long Fei? Someone the God's tribe is waiting for?" Did the God's tribe hang 13 dragon patriarchs at the entrance of the heavenly palace just to lure him over? It's him? It's him. He is Long Fei. He is the person God's tribe wants to kill. It's him. The 13th dragon ancestor hung at the entrance of the shrine, waiting for him to appear. That's him. The news about the 13th dragon ancestor had already spread throughout the Holy King City, but they did not expect Long Fei to appear in front of them. This caused them to be incomparably shocked. Long Fei was also startled, his eyes secretly tensed up, and asked, "You said 13th dragon ancestor? What happened to them?" He was not unfamiliar with the 13th dragon ancestor. Thus, hearing that the 13th dragon ancestor was hung at the entrance of the shrine, Long Fei's heart secretly tensed up. At this moment, a murderous aura rose in the air. Taoist Master Lu said solemnly, "You still don't know? The 13th dragon ancestor have already been hanging in front of the shrine's gate for 3 days, and their blood is almost flowing out. The people from the God's tribe have long sent word out for you to appear." Long Fei slightly narrowed his eyes. "God tribe shrine?" The Taoist Master Lu sneered and said, "Scared." It was also at this time. A few elders surrounded Long Fei, their eyes filled with viciousness. Everyone knew that Long Fei was Universal Realm's #1 wanted criminal. If they could catch him, they would receive the God's tribe's highest reward. To them, Long Fei was Universal Realm's #1 boss. Who wouldn't want his head? Long Fei looked at the Taoist Master Lu and asked, "Why do you know about this?" The Taoist Master Lu sneered and said, "Of course we know. Because we are the forces of the God's tribe, we naturally know about all of this." Long Fei's eyes moved slightly. "Are you from the God's tribe's forces?" Taoist Master Lu laughed coldly. "Of course, not only my Holy King sect, even the people in this Holy King City are the same. Right now, the entire universal realm belongs to my God's tribe. Do you think you can still fight against my God's tribe? You overestimate yourself." "Oh." Long Fei's eyes turned cold. "Are they all from the God's tribe? Then it's done." In an instant, suddenly, a surge of power surged out from his body. A stream of purple mist flashed. Boom! It directly covered the entire Holy King City. At this moment, crash! All the people in the city, all of them, to become swish. With a single thought, he slaughtered the entire city. As the purple mist spread out in an instant, the entire Holy King City was instantly turned into fine powder. As the purple mist spread out in an instant, the entire Holy King City was instantly turned into fine powder. God's holy state? Overlord Realm's powerhouse is very powerful. A sovereign realm cultivator is the peak powerhouse of the universal realm. At this moment, they were crushed like ants, and the moment Long Fei released his power, they didn't even have time to react. Slaughter the city. These two words should have been a scene of slaughter, blood, and rivers of blood. However, it was completed in just a single thought, and everyone seemed to have suddenly disappeared from this world. The entire world became quiet. It's finally quietened down. I really hate killing people. The killing intent that surged out from Long Fei's heart did not decrease at all. He glanced at the surrounding ground that was covered in a thick layer of powder and said faintly, "If it's the real face, then it would be very refreshing. To suddenly obtain this much experience, he must definitely be able to level up by a few levels." God Shrine. He raised his eyes slightly and looked into the sky. Shrine? 13th Dragon Ancestor. What happened? His eyes narrowed as he said softly, "Maybe Dragon Ancestor knows the location of the real face. By the way, I want to see how powerful the so-called God's tribe is." In the next moment, Long Fei's figure disappeared. He disappeared on the spot with a strong, killing intent. The Southern Sea Region. Senior brother. Senior brother, what's wrong? Boss, what's going on? In Seal, Long Fei's pupils turned purple, and the killing intent from his body surged like a raging sea. It surged crazily as it roared and stirred up huge waves, as if it wanted to swallow everything in its path. Killing intent. An unusually strong killing intent. Long Fei couldn't even control his own killing intent. He didn't even know what was going on. Suddenly, endless killing intent surged out from his body. It was as if the heavens were going to be destroyed. The center of young Taoist's brows tightened, and both hands undid the seal. The immortal Taoist scriptures' energy wrapped around Long Fei, wanting to use this method to calm him down. But, Kacha, bong, when the defensive wall released by the immortal Taoist scriptures touched the killing intent released from Long Fei's body, it actually could not endure it and started to crack, and in the end, it directly shattered with a bong sound. Young Taoist immediately retreated, his expression changing greatly. "Senior brother," the Savage King said, "his pupils have turned purple. Could it be that he has gone berserk? Recently, the boss's behavior has been too weird. It's like two different people suddenly acting like this and suddenly acting like that. I'm really a bit confused now." Young Taoist was also very anxious. It is indeed strange, but from the looks of it, he did not have Qigong deviation. His purple pupils should have been transformed from cultivating some kind of power. However, his cultivation is clearly at the lowest level in this world and is basically unable to cultivate such a profound cultivation technique. Unless one was born with it, cultivating it required the support of spiritual energy. Long Fei was only at the first level, and his spiritual energy was only at 100. It was impossible for him to cultivate such a powerful technique, which was something the two of them could not understand. Could it be a variation of the power of eternity? Young Taoist's eyes darkened. "Let me try again." Buzz. The golden runes on its body flew out, forming a thick protective wall around Long Fei. However, at this moment, Long Fei's purple eyes moved. Rumble. The entire defensive wall shattered. But Long Fei did not attack the young Taoist. He only stood at his original position, and his killing intent continued to wreak havoc in the seal. Buzz. It was also at this time. 19 demons from the seal area woke up. Sensing the aura on Long Fei's body, they knew about Long Fei's identity and revealed their most primitive savagery. Dragon Clan's head dragon? Ha! Go to hell. Bam! A demon charged towards Long Fei like a ball of black fog. Long Fei raised his eyes, schwa. His purple eyes moved and instantly destroyed everything. His body was pierced. Both of them were extremely fast, but Long Fei had instantly pierced through his body, causing the demon's body to stop. Kacha! His shriveled body split into two and fell to the ground. "Holy sh**t! The Savage King exclaimed in astonishment. What a wild strength. Young Taoist, when did boss become so strong? With regard to the special power that burst out from Long Fei's body, he felt that Long Fei was no longer the Long Fei of the past, but instead seemed to have become different. The young Taoist said worriedly, "Could it be that the power of eternity has really mutated?" They didn't understand. Last time in the seal, they were the ones who killed all the demons, but today, the two of them only watched from the sidelines. They didn't even have the chance to fight. Walala, Long Fei caught a demon and tore him into two. This power, this savage, Too fierce. The two of them were dumbfounded. Young Taoist looked at the dragon sword floating in the air and could not help but ask, was he this fierce before? The dragon sword also had a stupefied face as she said, we have never met before. Up. Long Fei glared, the killing intent around him surging out. Those demons were directly crushed to the ground and could not even raise their heads. Let's destroy our seal. I still want to be seal. This is too damn scary. Can you not be like this? I'm willing to be trapped in the seal for another 10 trillion years. Right now, they did not want to take revenge, nor did they want to escape. It was as if they had been left in the seal. They realized that this world was too dangerous. But Long Fei did not give them a chance. It took care of them all in a matter of seconds. Moreover, every single demon was in an incomparably miserable state. They were either torn into 2 pieces, or their heads were twisted off, and their corpses were broken into 7 or 8 pieces. Each was more miserable than the other. After venting, Long Fei's pupils returned to normal. It was as if his entire body had collapsed from exhaustion. He plopped to the ground, panting heavily. It was as if his spiritual energy had been completely drained. Looking at the corpses of the demons, he was stunned. How did these demons die? Young Taoist and Quang Wang looked at Long Fei. Quang Wang stared at the corpses of the demons and whispered, in the past, I always thought that boss would need protection, but now, I feel that we should be the ones protecting him. Young Taoist also agreed. I think so too. Long Fei looked at the gazes of the two of them and said, could it be that I killed them? Young Taoist walked forward and said, Boss, did you cultivate some kind of evil technique? Your eyes turned purple. Purple. Long Fei's face was full of suspicion. How come I don't remember anything at all? I felt a killing intent that I could not control suddenly surge out from my body. After that, the killing intent exploded out, but I could not remember it. Is there someone else in my body? Long Fei did not understand him. Long Fei did not understand him. During this period of time, he would have hallucinations from time to time, and the thoughts of another person would appear. This person seemed to be looking for something, and his mind was constantly receiving all kinds of strange information. If it weren't for the strengthening of his body, he definitely would have been split apart by now. He couldn't control his killing intent at all. What was the reason? Long Fei was still unable to find an answer. With his memories sealed by the seal, he did not even remember that he had a clone. Even if he did, he had no idea what his clone had become. Because, ever since he ordered his clone to hide away, he only focused on cultivation. After so many years, how much has he cultivated? No one knew. However, Long Fei realized that his variant heart was a little worried. This was not the power of the system. It was a kind of power within his body. System girl, did you notice anything when you strengthened my body? Is there some kind of power in my body that has yet to be developed? This kind of power, will it make me unable to control it? Long Fei asked anxiously. But the girl did not respond. She was still lying quietly in her sleep. Long Fei was a little depressed. You haven't woken up even after sleeping for so long. Could the system be a pig? The system could not give an explanation, but Long Fei could not understand, and there was no one beside him to give an explanation. This kind of feeling was really irritating. Perhaps. My memories. Yes, it definitely has something to do with the seal. Damned Emperor Xian. Long Fei's eyes turned sinister. At this moment, boom, a dragon sword flew out from the seal and floated beside Long Fei, respectfully saying, Master. The dragon sword replied excitedly, See dragon sword. Long Fei waved his hand and said, Go back to your original position. You don't need to guard this place anymore in the future. Sea Dragon Sword said, Thank you, Master. The primordial 9 realms, 9 CLS, and, at the same time, 9 Dragon Sword. There were already 8 of them. Dragon Sword, Ice Dragon Sword, Fire Dragon Sword, Earth Dragon Sword, Metal Dragon Sword, Wood Dragon Sword, Poisonous Dragon Sword, Sea Dragon Sword, the 9 Dragon Sword were all gathered up. If all 9 swords were gathered together, they would be able to restore and recreate the divine dragon body. This was something that Long Fei had promised them. Since the Sea Dragon Sword has returned, Then there's only one realm left. Long Fei looked up into the sky. The Wild King immediately became excited and asked, "Are you going to God's tribe?" Long Fei nodded his head and said, "And it is time. Originally, I should have gone back to the God's design attic and only wanted to raise all 9 of the swords before making a move on the God's tribe. And now it is time." "Ha! My axe is unable to endure the thirst," young Taoist said. "Senior brother, your situation? Shall we wait?" He was worried that Long Fei would once again fall into a state where he could no longer control himself, which would be extremely dangerous for him. Long Fei said, "Don't worry, there are times when I cannot control myself, but I can tell who is friend and who is the enemy." He couldn't control the power, but he could tell who the enemy was. Moreover, he had to go to the God's tribe. He had to figure out what kind of power was affecting him. He had to remove the seal from his memory. If he wanted to remove the seal, he had to kill the Emperor Xian. The Savage King said, "That's right. With the 2 of us here, no matter what happens, we can still stop our boss. Our strength isn't what it is now, you know." They were the outer space powerhouse. The power they displayed in the universal realm was in accordance with the laws of this world. Their power can surpass the laws of this world. However, now they did not do so. When Long Fei had really reached such a dangerous point, they would definitely protect Long Fei. Long Fei smiled. He had complete trust in the abilities of the 2 bodyguards. Then, Long Fei looked at the 8-dragon sword and said lightly, "All right, before long, I will let you guys regain possession of the dragon god and travel around the 4 seas." With a sweep of his sleeve, he sucked them into the space ring. Dragon sword. Right now, I'm only lacking divine dragon swordess. Everyone, are you ready? All the dragon swords said in unison, "I'm ready." From the moment I turned into a dragon sword and guarded here, I had been waiting for this day to come. Ha ha ha, me too. Master has reincarnated. His current body is only the body of an ordinary person, the dragon soul, spirit soul, and body of our 9 great holy dragon emperor, when the time comes. Recast on Master's body. His master is the #1 dragon of all time, surpassing heaven and earth, and surpassing history. No one can stop him. All the dragon sword said excitedly. They were not simply transforming into dragon sword to guard the demons. They still had a mission. Tens of millions of years, they hadn't forgotten their mission. They did not forget their human mission. Help Master recreate the ancient dragon body. The dragon sword said, "There is still one more problem." See, dragon sword asked, "Dragon blood?" The dragon sword said, "That's right. If you want to help Master rebuild the ancient dragon body, then you must have the dragon blood as a guide, and the rank of the dragon blood cannot be too low. I was the first to leave the seal, so I have some understanding of this world. The dragon race is currently being suppressed by the God's tribe, and there isn't a single dragon in the universal realm. Furthermore, the God's tribe controls the passage to the ancient world." Bing Jian said, "Even if we enter the ancient world, it would still be very difficult to find dragon blood. Moreover, after such a long time, there aren't many dragons that still have pure dragon blood on their bodies." The golden dragon sword asked, "Then what do we do?" The crowd of swords fell silent. The reforging of the ancient dragon body required dragon blood as a guide, and it wasn't even just ordinary dragon blood. It had to be pure dragon blood for it to be activated. But the current dragon race, after trillions of years, the dragon tribe had gone from thriving to declining, and now they were in a withered state. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been trampled on by the God's tribe. After a long time, the dragon's sword said solemnly, "We have to believe in Master. Everything is destined, and Master actually arranged it like this. Then he definitely has his own plans." The fire dragon sword said, "But, after all, in the past, even if Master could predict everything, he would not be able to." Prophecy was an ability of the dragon race. However, prophecy of what would happen in 1,000,000,000 years, it was impossible. The dragon sword said, "What we need to do is to trust Master." The crowd of swords sunk. Believe in Master. It's already been 6 days. Is there still no news of Long Fei, God's tribe shrine? A few of the great clan elders of God's tribe began to discuss with each other. The blood essence of the 13th dragon ancestor is almost dried up. If it still does not appear, then this ancient 13th dragon ancestor is going to die. 13 dragon patriarchs hung from the sky above the mountain, looking like 13 huge black pillars. 13 dragon patriarchs hung from the sky above the mountain, looking like 13 huge black pillars. Dragon blood constantly dripped down their bodies. In a valley at the top of the mountain, the blood essence of the 13 dragon ancestral dragons had already gathered into a lake. Blood rippled through the water, and the entire forest turned blood red. The scene was extremely spectacular. Countless powerhouse rushed to their natural peak to watch this spectacular scene. So this is the dragon ancestor? Wow, isn't this a bit too domineering? Their bodies are simply too large. They are tens of thousands of meters long and can't even be seen from a single glance. So what if he is domineering? So what if his body was big? Wasn't he crushed like a dog by the gods' tribe? Look at the current dragon tribe. Is there even a dragon clan disciple in the entire universal realm? Look at the ancient world's dragon clan. Their own dragon ancestors have already been crushed to this state. They don't even dare to let out a fart. They are really cowards, useless, Haha. Who said God tribe was strong? This was the world that was going on. No matter what kind of ancient clan you were still a prey to the strong. They're just like dregs. I heard that the 13th dragon ancestor was given to you by Long Wushan. Long Wushan is most likely the dragon clan's most useless clan chief. It's been 6 days. Do you think Long Fei will come? Come. You are joking. Facing the gods' tribe, he really wants to escape right now. Yet he dares to come? Come and die. That's right. Even a 3-year-old knew that a 13th dragon ancestor was hung at the entrance of shrine. How could he not know that it has not appeared for such a long time? When fighting with the gods' tribe, there is only one ending, and that is death. I bet that kid won't dare to come. At the peak of the mountain, discussions were rife. Even a fool would know that this was a trap set up by the gods' tribe. In everyone's eyes, Long Fei definitely did not dare to appear. Amongst the crowd, Xiaobai raised his head and looked into the sky. He clenched his teeth until they creaked loudly and his fists clenched tightly, the aura on his body burning like flames. Looking at the 13th dragon ancestor hanging in the sky, fresh blood continuously flowed down. It was the same with the ice and fire at the side. If not for elder swordsmen catching them, the two of them would have already flown up to the sky palace. Elder swordsman lowered his voice and said, "The two of you, calm your anger and don't be exposed." Xiaobai really could not hold back her tears and said, "We should at least do something." Elder swordsman said, "This is obviously a trap. Moreover, without the gods' tribe's permission, none of us will be able to go up. You might seem all right, but there are many taboos under the Shrine S, such as the guillotine's ninth heaven, the gods' tribe's formation in the heavenly region, and many other taboos. Any one of them can take our lives." He had once thought of attacking Shrine. One night, he flew to Shrine. His only fate was to be instantly crushed. There was nothing to be done. Unless the gods' tribe gave her permission, she could not force her way in. Xiao Yao Xiong also said solemnly, "Elder swordsman is right. Just the guillotine's ninth heaven. No one can break through it." Xiao Bai said, "I remember boss once broke through. It was just that in the end, Emperor Xian made a move and knocked him back." Xiao Yao Xiong said, "I know about this matter. That is in the past, and now the nine heavens truly possesses the power of the slain god. The Emperor Xian has strengthened the nine heavens. However, it's not like there's no other way. My magic space spell," Elder Swordsman said. "Even if there's a way to avoid the guillotine's nine heavens and avoid the gods' tribe's formation, what about those ancient worlds? It's impossible to dodge. The 13th dragon ancestor can't hold on for long. Even if we put them down now, they won't be able to live. Blood essence is life for dragons, and their blood is almost completely drained. Furthermore, the gods' tribe didn't even think of letting them live after hanging them up. This is a trap. We are waiting for Long Fei here. Stop him. Don't let him be fooled." The elder swordsman said solemnly. The time to deal with the gods' tribe was not ripe yet. Just Long Fei alone was not enough. Ice and Fire said solemnly, "Can't the ancient world's dragon race do something? Is that the 13th dragon ancestor? And we could be bullied by the god tribe just like that?" Indeed, the dragon race was an extremely respected race, but the 13th dragon ancestor was hung up like this. They were not giving the dragon race any face at all. However, Long Wushan didn't do anything. Not only did he not do it, he had completely suppressed all of the Dragon Clan disciples. Dragon, Abyss Black Dragon. Long Wushan quietly floated in the darkness, his two golden eyes staring at Long Zhanting, who was pierced by the dragon lock chain. At this moment, the corner of Long Zhanting's mouth raised as he unceasingly sneered. "Long Wushan, your name is the wrong person. You should call me Dragon Useless or Dragon Useless." Long Wushan said expressionlessly, "Tell us where your son is. As long as we can get his head, the dragon race would not need to suffer such humiliation." "Where's my son?" "Ha ha!" Long Zhanting laughed out loud. The chains on his body were also twitching. The wounds were tearing, and fresh blood was being carried out by the chains, as though he did not feel any pain at all. "Long Wushan, why are you so useless? You still want to use my son's head to exchange for the peace of the dragon race? Do you have a brain? Do you think the god's tribe can let the dragon go after you kill my son? If not for the fact that my son is still alive, do you think the Emperor Xian would not have attacked the dragon clan right now? If my son dies, the dragon race will perish." The corners of Long Wushan's eyes twitched. He suddenly grabbed onto the chain and pulled. Walala! Huge and thick chains frantically drilled out from Long Zhanting's body like a speeding train. Blood gushed out madly, and that kind of scene looked to be extremely painful. Long Wushan also roared out, "If it wasn't for you two, father and son, how could the dragon race have fallen to such a state? I'm useless. I don't have a brain. Do you know how strong the Emperor Xian is? Now that he has entered the void hole, the demons that were previously killed by our ancestor Seal came out one by one. If it wasn't for me, do you think the current dragon tribe would still exist? Long Zhanting, even when the dragon clan turned out like this, they still had to blame that son of yours." Anger raged. If it was possible, Long Wushan wanted to kill Long Zhanting with a single slash. An incomparable pain assaulted his entire body, but Long Zhanting did not even frown. He only laughed coldly. "Are you afraid now? Ha ha! He is about to complete the Nirvana stage, and when he enters the ancient world, the first person he will kill will be you. Ha ha!" Long Wushan's voice turned cold and said, "Enter the ancient world? Umph!" To him, this is like a dream. At the foot of the mountain, a man in white clothes suddenly appeared out of nowhere and slightly raised his eyes. The next second, his body appeared at the very peak of the mountain. A cool breeze blew, and his figure descended. A cool breeze blew, and his figure descended. In that instant, a white silhouette landed on the peak of the mountain. The summit of the sky was like a huge viewing platform, and many people gathered there to watch the dragon ancestor. The sudden appearance of the immortal-like man in white did not attract much attention. The man's eyes were slightly cold as he looked up at the 13 dying dragons in the sky. He watched as the blood from his giant dragon continuously flowed down, turning the entire call into a lake of blood. The scene was shocking. The man clenched his fists. Cluck, cluck, cluck. It was like space splitting apart. It's really the dragon ancestor. The man's gaze became even colder. The rage and killing intent in his heart started to surge, and the aura around him became abnormal due to the flames of rage. Those who could stand here were all powerhouse of the universal realm. The elders, sect masters, and people with cultivations above God's holy state. They felt an extremely strong killing intent, a killing intent that caused his heart to tremble. Many people stopped their discussions, their eyes looking for the source of the killing intent. Murong Xiong lowered his voice and said, "Be careful, there's an expert here." Elder Swordsman said with a heavy voice, "This killing intent. I have never seen such a strong killing intent." City Lord Mu, did you find a seat? Xiao Bai said excitedly. Could it be that boss is here? Icefire asked. Is the boss here yet? Senior Mie said, it is not the aura on Long Fei's body. This kind of killing intent is completely different from normal energy. Killing intent filled the air. It was abnormally intense. Every single person on the peak felt as if a sharp sword was hovering in their minds. With just a slight movement of the sharp sword, they would all die. This feeling was extremely difficult to bear. Some people could not bear it and shouted, "Who is it? Who the hell is that aura? What do you want? Do you know where this is? This is the Heaven Mountain. This is the God's tribe's feet. What are you trying to do by releasing such killing intent? Who is it?" Some people were acting wildly. None of them wanted to be crushed by this kind of killing intent. They even felt that they were about to die. But Long Fei did not pay any attention to any of these voices. His eyes continued to stare at the sky, and a hint of purple flashed in his eyes. The change in his gaze immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding people. Look at his eyes. Purple eyes. He's an alien? Are you cultivating a demonic art? Many people began to notice the white-robed Long Fei. Murong Xiong and the others had also noticed it. Senior Mie immediately looked at Tang Long and asked, "Is he a devil?" Tang Long stared intently at Long Fei and shook his head. Senior Mie asked curiously, "Not a demon?" Logically speaking, only Magic Tribe has purple pupils. He is not a demon. Could he be cultivating some kind of evil technique? Tang Long replied, "I don't know. I can't sense it." If Long Fei was not a demon, Senior Mie would not have thought much of it. But Tang Long's words caused him to tremble violently. What kind of existence was the Tang clan? He was born with an extraordinary reaction towards demonic cultivators, let alone the demons of the universal realm. Even if it was the devils that came from the ancient world, he would still be able to sense them at the first moment. But now he actually said that he couldn't feel it. Beyond the range of perception? Infinite strong? Even so, he should still be able to sense it. His words caused everyone to be secretly shocked. Murong Xiong said, "Everyone be careful. I suspect that his killing intent was released from his body." Xiaobai looked at Long Fei and asked, "What background does he have?" Long Fei's clone was very secretive. No one knew that he had another clone, and even more so, no one knew that this clone had been cultivated to such a superb level. Even Long Fei himself didn't know about it, let alone Xiaobai and Binghua. "Kid, which sect are you from?" A brawny man holding a bronze hammer said with a heavy voice. His body was covered with muscles, and beneath them was an endless amount of strength. That pair of bronze hammer should weigh at least 10,000 kilograms. With a slight movement, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. Long Fei ignored him. He didn't even look at it. The bronze hammer warrior was annoyed. He glared and bellowed, "I am talking to you. Are you deaf?" Long Fei's eyes lowered, looked at the bronze hammer warrior, and said indifferently, "I don't like killing people, so get the hell away from me." With that, he looked up to the sky again and chanted, "All kinds of formations, and even one of the 9 heavens, this should be the place that the real Face S have been to, right? Guillotine, 9th heaven." He thought about how to break it. However, the bronze hammer warrior looked as if he had been humiliated, and Long Fei's cold expression made him extremely unhappy. A series of explosions sounded. Space itself began to distort. A hammer struck Long Fei, and the sturdy man said, "You are pretending to be strong in front of me? I'd like to see what you have." Walala! The bronze hammer descended. Buzz! The earth quaked, and the mountains shook. An extremely powerful shockwave was sent out. It was as if a halo of light had enveloped his entire being. This strike, not to mention humans, even a mountain would be smashed apart. However, Long Fei did not even move, and did not even glance at the bronze hammer warrior, who was still indifferently staring at the sky, as if nothing had happened. The bronze hammer floated half a meter above his head. The energy formed a net, and the heat waves from the lines firmly blocked the bronze hammer. He couldn't smash it down at all. The bronze hammer warrior's eyes darkened. He was extremely shocked in his heart. He knew how much power he had, but to think that his strike could not even touch Long Fei's hair? In his heart, he was instantly enraged as well. Boom! He exerted all of his strength, and his entire body flew into the sky. The two hammers moved, and his body started spinning. Murong Xiong said in a heavy voice, "Thunder Sect's Sectmaster, Wang Tong, this guy has inborn divine strength. His pair of war hammers weigh 30,000 kilograms, and his cultivation is an overlord peak realm. Even ordinary sovereign realm powerhouse do not dare to fight him." Xiaobai asked, "Isn't that white-clothed man in danger?" Murong Xiong shook his head. "Wang Tong is already in a rage, I'm afraid." Wang Tong roared. With a roar, it turned into a violent attack. Boom, 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 boom. A hammer strike and a hammer strike struck each other like thunder. A torrential storm of attacks. One hammer strike after another descended upon him ruthlessly. A minute later, the 3,000 hammer blows landed. The scene was extremely violent. The scene on the screen was extremely shocking as well. The surrounding people all looked at Long Fei, wanting to see him make a fool of himself. However, Long Fei hated it when he was in deep thought. He raised his eyes slightly and said lightly, "Is that enough? Can you scram? Is that enough? Is that enough? Can you get lost now?" A few understated sentences. There was not a trace of boredom in his words. Long Fei never thought of acting tough. These words did not mean anything to him. He just wanted Wang Tong to stop disturbing him and let him walk further away. However, these two sentences were definitely not an ordinary act for Wang Tong and the people around him. It was simply looking down on Wang Tong's existence. Wang Tong's eyes were as wide as an ox's, as if someone had greened them. He was infuriated as he roared, "Brat, I don't believe that I can't kill you." He roared. Another hammer heavily struck down. But this strike, Long Fei let out a light breath. "There's no end, right?" Zhang Xian's finger moved. Boom. His fingertip blocked the gigantic bronze hammer. Finger to bronze hammer? Don't let the hammer smash you to pieces. Damn, aren't you looking down on Wang Tong too much? He's a bit too arrogant. He is Wang Tong, the leader of the Thunderbolt sect. Just watch. His hands are going to be crippled at the very least. The strength of one finger. Wanted to contend against a 10,000 gene bronze hammer? This was a bit too arrogant. However, just as Long Fei's fingertip made contact with a 5,000 kilogram bronze hammer, with a kacha sound, it instantly ruptured, to the point where people couldn't even react properly. The bronze hammer shattered. With a flick of his finger, when he was still half a meter away from Wang Tong, boom! A ray of purple light suddenly appeared on his fingertip. Buzz! Bang! It heavily smashed onto Wang Tong's chest. Wang Tong screamed out. He was flung into the sky and immediately flew towards the ninth heaven. An even more terrifying scream resounded, and in less than a second, it was blasted into ashes by the nine heavens. The soul flying did not even produce the slightest bit of fine powder fell onto the ground. Long Fei frowned and said indifferently, "I don't want to kill anyone. I have to force me to do it." The entire peak of the mountain instantly quieted down. Terrifying silence. Everyone looked at Long Fei. It was like looking at a monster. This person was too terrifying. One finger was enough to instantly kill Wang Tong, the Overlord's peak realm. How terrifying was this? For a moment, no one dared to mock him, and they all stayed far away from him. There were even many people who thought that he was someone from the God's tribe, a person from the ancient world. Otherwise, even a sovereign realm cultivator would not be able to easily kill Wang Tong. Murong Xiong's pupils seemed to ignite with flames. "Damn, what a fierce man. If he could come with us," Elder Swordsman said. "For people like him, whom we do not know, it's best not to interact with him. No one knows his background." Murong Xiong said, "Logically speaking, there's a record about every single powerhouse in the primordial 9 regions, but I have never heard of such a character. What is his background? Although I don't know his identity, I can guarantee that he definitely isn't someone from the God's tribe. He doesn't have the aura of a God's tribe blood vein on him." Senior Mia said indifferently. Tang Long said, "Just now, his power contained purple light. I have also never seen this power, and the devil arts also did not contain this kind of aura. They were all trying to guess Long Fei's identity. Xiao Bai said slightly. Why does he keep looking at the sky? If he is a powerhouse from ancient world, would the gates of the shrine dare to open? He is not some secret sex powerhouse. Elder Swordsman said. It is indeed strange. He has been staring at the sky the entire time. No one knew him. No one knew what he was going to do. At this moment, Long Fei kept thinking in his heart. Seems like the ninth heaven of the guillotine has strengthened. Just a moment ago, it was only first heaven, and it already possessed the power of the annihilation laws. Emperor Xian is indeed a Emperor Xian. He's actually able to draw the power of law into it, and it's so powerful at that. On the other side, a forbidden formation. This formation, Long Fei slightly narrowed his eyes. What he saw was completely different from what the people around him saw. He could clearly see the formation. God's tribe formation. It was an extremely complicated formation pattern. It did not have a formation aperture, nor was there any place that it could be easily broken through. It could be said to be a perfect formation. Not only that, other than the God's tribe's array formation and the ninth heaven, there were also hidden dangers in the surrounding area. Long Fei's heart secretly tensed up. God tribe is indeed a God's tribe. He really is quite strong. However, Long Fei's eyes narrowed slightly as a purple light burst out his eyes. Just as he was about to make his move, his gaze locked onto the ninth heaven of the guillotine. Buzz! The great doors of the shrine opened wide. The two descendant of God's tribe descended, just like Sky Weapon God's general. Almost instantly, his gaze landed on the peak of the mountain. A disciple's gaze swept across the area as he coldly asked, "Who just entered the ninth level of heaven?" Everyone lowered their heads slightly. With fear, no one said anything. Another descendant of God's tribe said coldly, "Didn't you hear it? Who was the one who just entered the nine heavens?" An elder said, "It's Wang Tong from the Thunderbolt sect. It's him. Did he get water in his head?" Descendant of God's tribe laughed in disdain. "I even thought that was that bastard Long Fei." As soon as he finished, bam! The descendant of God's tribe who was speaking suddenly flew out, without any warning. No one could clearly see what had just happened. The other descendant of God's tribe looked dazed for half a minute. Then, he reacted and revealed a sinister expression. "Who is it? Who was that? Do you want to die? If you have the guts, then stand up for me." His entire body seemed to have gone crazy. He roared crazily. The surrounding people also had stupefied looks on their faces. They dared to make a move on descendant of God's tribe? This was courting death. You won't tell me, right? Let alone the fact that all of you will die. Descendant of God's tribe shouted crazily. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, he bared his fangs and brandished his claws. He is the God's tribe. He was superior. Even if his cultivation wasn't strong, he could still easily crush these people. Just because he was a God's tribe. Plop! Some people kneeled down, and at this moment, many people followed suit. "My lord, just now it happened too fast. We couldn't react at all." "Yeah, even if we were given 10 guts, we wouldn't dare. Lord, please spare our lives." When the God's tribe showed his might, it meant that they were very clear about the means used by the 9 nations and the God's tribe. Seeing everyone kneel down, the descendant of God's tribe became even more arrogant and said, "You pieces of trash." Just as he finished speaking the word trash, bam! With a dull sound, the descendant of God's tribe flew out and directly into the sky. Starlight flashed in the sky, and he disappeared. The surrounding people looked as if they had seen a ghost, and all of them began to tremble with pale faces. Just now it was very fast. However, this time, they were able to see it clearly, because Long Fei was standing at the spot where the descendant of God's tribe had disappeared just now. I hate hearing the word trash the most. I hate hearing the word trash the most. Long Fei coldly snorted. He continued to study the 9 heavens. Just act as if nothing had happened. But the surrounding people all looked as if they had gone mad. All of them knelt on the ground and kowtowed to shrine. "This has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with us." We didn't do it. It's not us. Even if the people from God's tribe were not here, they would still kowtow like grandchildren. Very sad. Very small. This was because their hearts were filled with fear, because they knew how cruel God's tribe's methods were. Now, killed 2 descendant of God's tribe S. If the God's tribe were to show their might, even if they did not do anything, they would be implicated. They were incomparably afraid. Murong Xiong laughed bitterly. How sad. The leaders of the various great sects and S are all like slaves, without even the slightest bit of dignity. How laughable, how pathetic. They valued their lives more than anything else. However, they had never thought that while fate was in the hands of others, no matter how important they looked, it would still be useless. Xiao Bai said indifferently, as he thought back to what Long Fei had just said. It looks like boss. Boss also hates the word trash the most. It's a pity. He's not the boss. Murong Xiong walked towards Long Fei. Elder Swordsman and the others also walked up. Long Fei did not know Murong Xiong. He only knew about Long Fei's past affairs and did not know about what had happened after he had parted ways with her. Furthermore, he had always been Long Fei's most secretive existence. Xiao Bai, Ice and Fire, had already transformed into an adult, so he wouldn't be able to recognize him. Thus, when they walked behind him, Long Fei merely moved the corner of his eye slightly and didn't even turn his head to look at them. Instead, he said coldly, "Stay away from me. I don't like killing people." Murong Xiong said, "Brother, you just killed the people of God's tribe. So before God's tribe finds out, you better escape now. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape." "Escape?" Long Fei said indifferently. Murong Xiong said, "I know you are very strong, but you don't know how strong the God's tribe is, nor do you know how many powerhouses there are. Hurry up and go. Only by surviving will we have the chance to change the world." Murong Xiong didn't want to see the youth in front of him die here. This way, one less powerhouse will be able to fight against the God's tribe. Moreover, he knew very well that no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to defeat God's tribe, and he would only be stronger than her. So far, there had been no one who was able to defeat Emperor Xian. There was no other way. Otherwise, his father would have sent him a message long ago. He had been waiting. However, the more he waited, the more hopeless he felt. Even if it was his nephew, Murong Xiong didn't dare hold too much hope. He had only come here hoping to stop Long Fei from cultivating and becoming stronger. He came here to let Long Fei develop in a wretched manner, to let him calm down. Because the God tribe was too strong, too strong. Long Fei said blandly, "Whether you're strong or not, you have to try. There are some things that you need to never know what's so bad about yourself." And Long Fei raised his head to look at the 13th dragon ancestor hanging in the sky, and then said with a sinister look in his eyes, "Even though there are some things that are very difficult, even if it's impossible to know, you still have to do it. Because I'm a man." Even if he knew he couldn't, he still had to give it a try. Even if he knew that his opponent was very strong, he would still fight head-on. Because this was a man's responsibility. Some things had to be done. He had never thought that he was that strong. Ever since he had left the real face, he had been secretly developing in order to one day return to the real face's side. Right now, he couldn't find the real face, but he could do some things for the real face. 13 Dragon Ancestor had always been by Long Fei's side to protect Long Fei, and now that they were in trouble, even if they were not his opponents, they had to go up as well. Murong Xiong said, "You are right, but why waste your life?" Long Fei said, "A person must have a fearless heart when living. Only then will he be able to live a bit more confidently. You lost your life for nothing. It's impossible to give up your life for nothing." Long Fei walked forward a few steps. His gaze locked onto the 9 heavens. The aura on his body started to build up. He was about to attempt the 9 heavens. Murong Xiong also followed and took a step forward, saying, "Big brother, listen to me. Don't go to shrine. You will really lose your life. You are very strong. Compared to my nephew, if the two of you join hands, I believe that your chances of winning will increase." I came here to wait for him. Murong Xiong really wanted to pull him into her group, because the guy in front of him was really too strong. Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "There's no need. I have always been alone." Murong Xiong's gaze tensed up. It was also at this time. Xiaobai suddenly asked, "Can we do what you and God's tribe have against each other?" Long Fei asked, "What enmity?" He didn't know. "All I know is that I want to overturn God's tribe. I want to stomp God's tribe to pieces." As soon as he finished, Long Fei flew up into the sky. In that instant, he directly charged into the 9 heavens below the guillotine. Overturn the God's tribe? It sounds like what Boss said. Xiao Bai's gaze tensed up, and he wanted to ask again, "Are you the boss?" However, Long Fei's figure had already disappeared. Murong Xiong also let out a heavy sigh and said, "Why don't these youngsters listen to advice? That recklessness is something that only the Shrine S can do. It's something that comes from the 9th heaven beneath the guillotine. Anyone who enters would be sending themselves to their deaths." Sigh. Murong Xiong blamed himself, but he had said everything he could. Bing Hu asked, "What is he doing in the God's tribe?" "Revenge. Why is it now?" Could it be to save the 13th dragon ancestor? At this moment, in another place, Long Fei's mind suddenly tensed up. As though he was suffocating, he retracted his feather god wings and fiercely fell down from the sky. Young Taoist was quick to react. He instantly grabbed Long Fei and asked, "Senior brother, what's wrong?" Long Fei's heart sped up and said, No, I don't know." It was an indescribable feeling. He felt as if he had entered a very dangerous place where he could destroy everything. He wanted control. He wanted to hold on to her, but there was nothing he could do. It was also because of this that he suddenly retracted his feather god wings. Looking at Long Fei's pale face, young Taoist asked, "Senior brother, why don't we rest for a bit before leaving?" Long Fei shook his head and said, "Let's hurry over first. I have a feeling that something big is about to happen." This feeling was very strong. Moreover, the closer he got to the mountain, the more he felt that there was someone else in his body. A voice kept calling out to him. This feeling was getting stronger and stronger. Buzz, buzz, boom. With an explosive sound, the shrine trembled slightly. This sound was very special, as if the first heaven had been shattered. Anyone from the God's tribe knew that the voice came from the 9 heavens beneath the guillotine. The gazes of the elders tightened. God's tribe shrine. Report. A descendant of God's tribe hurried over. In the hall, all the presbyter of God's tribe tensed up and looked at the disciple. The great clan elder said excitedly, "Has that little bastard Long Fei come?" The disciple reporting to great elder, "Someone has intruded into the 9 heavens beneath the guillotine." Challenge the 9 heavens. Does he think he's still at the 9 heavens? You overestimate yourself. The current 9 heavens are all the power of law. Who can break in? This kid is too conceited. All the elders looked on with disdain. No one could pass the current 9th heaven, and with a guillotine in the 9th heaven, it would be even more fatal. The great clan elder asked, "Is it that brat Long Fei?" The disciple replied, "No." The grand elder's gaze immediately turned sinister. If it's not him, then who is it? The entire main hall quieted down. If we were to say that the universal realm S are completely under the control of the God's tribe S, then only Long Fei and a small portion of Xiaoyao City S are fighting against the God's tribe S. However, other than Long Fei, who else would dare to challenge the 9th heaven? Murong Xiong? He knew that he had undergone the 9 heavens transformation, and he wouldn't dare to challenge it even if he was given 10 times the courage. Who else dares to fight the God's tribe? He doesn't want to live anymore, right? He actually dares to challenge the 9 heavens. Who is this person? To dare challenge the dignity of the God's tribe? You're courting death. Many of the elders spoke in a low voice. Towards this person who suddenly appeared, the presbyter of God's tribe S were all incomparably furious. The disciple replied, "This disciple also doesn't know this person's identity. This person seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. Just now, on the summit of the sky, Thunder Sect Master Wang Tong was instantly killed. And Wang Tong, Even though his cultivation isn't high, he is still an overlord's peak realm. A pair of 30,000-pound bronze hammer is quite powerful. Even an ordinary sovereign realm powerhouse would not be his match. How would he be instantly killed? This person has quite the bit of strength. An elder said, "Is there anything else?" "Go on." The disciple said, "Also, just now, 2 of our God's tribe's disciples were also killed by him." Boom! The entire hall shook. How preposterous! This is too presumptuous. He wants to openly fight with the God's tribe, right? Immediately go investigate. You must have this kid's 18 generations of ancestors. No, every single one of the 81 generations must be found out. I want to let them all know the consequences of offending the God's tribe. All the elders in the hall were enraged. Killing the descendant of God's tribe in public was undoubtedly challenging the might of the heavens. If such a person was not eliminated, then where was the might of the heavens? The great elder's eyes turned vicious as he said coldly, "Are you sure he has entered the 9 heavens?" The disciple said, "I am sure that the elder of the guillotine is already closely observing his every move. He is currently struggling within the first layer of heaven, and he won't be able to hold on for long." Each of the 9 heavens was bound by a layer of law. The first level was the law of annihilation. He was going to die if he went in. No one could fight against the law. No one could stand above the law. Just like how the Emperor Xian had recreated the 9 heavens. Only the God's tribe was able to dominate the 9 heavens, and only the God's tribe was able to wield the power to slay gods. The 9th heaven also signified the heavenly might of the God's tribe. Passing the 9 heavens? Impossible. The God tribe would never allow such a thing to happen. When I almost allowed Long Fei to break through to the 9th heaven, God's tribe would never make that kind of mistake a second time. The great elders said, "Pay close attention and report at any time." Even though I don't know why he broke through to the 9th heaven, I'm sure it was related to 13th dragon ancestor. And it's actually like that. Then I'll start flaying the dragon skin and pulling the dragon tendons. Fighting with the God's tribe is death. The great clan elder said in a gloomy voice. At this time, he had forcefully broken through to the 9th heaven, and even if he was not someone from the Long family, yes, he was still related to the Long family, yes. This sort of person must be killed. Yes, sir. Several elders flew out. The great clan elder laughed coldly. Fight with God's tribe? I want to see just how powerful you are. Ha ha ha. He let out a wild laugh. His voice spread out, passing directly through the 9 heavens. The face of the great elder appeared from the 9th heaven. He stared at Long Fei, who was in the 1st heaven, and said, "I don't care who you are or what your goal is. If you go against my God's tribe, there will only be one outcome. That is death. You want to save the dragon ancestor? Then let me show you how these 13 dragons died in front of you. Ha!" The sound came from the 9 heavens, exploding at the peak of the sky, spreading millions of kilometers away. The Grand Elder's cultivation realm was extremely terrifying. At the same time, 13 clan elders appeared at the entrance of shrine. In their hands, they held a special kind of sharp blade, which had a different name, skinned hook. It was specially used to peel demon beasts, and other than peeling, it could also pull cramps. Different from normal skinning hooks, these 13 skinning hooks that Presbyter of God's tribe had were all holy artifacts. What are they going to do? It can't be that we're going to skin the dragon, right? That must be it. First, let the blood flow, then peel it, pull out the tendons, strip the bones, and finally the dragon's soul. With this, even if the golden immortals of the great firmament ancient realm were to come, they wouldn't be able to save the 13 dragon ancestor. This is what happens when you go against the God's tribe. It's so good to be a good dog, at least you still have your life. Now you can't even be a dog. Ha ha. The dragon race is doing really terrible things. This is all the fault of the dragon race. If they didn't go together with the God's tribe, they wouldn't have done this. After the 13 elders took their positions, a huge projection appeared in the 9 heavens. The great clan elder laughed sinisterly. Did you see that? The dragon ancestor that you wanted to save is about to get ripped off. Ha! Kid, is this great? Ha ha! The great elder laughed wildly. In the 9 heavens, Long Fei raised his eyes slightly. Looking at the 13 dragon ancestors on the screen, his gaze grew dark and cold. In that instant, the aura on his body abruptly changed. The power of the law of annihilation within the first layer of the refinement realm suddenly tightened as it began to emit creaking sounds, giving off a feeling as if it was unable to withstand the pressure. Not only that, the aura being released from Long Fei's body had also become visible to the naked eye. The purple fog condensed and formed a couple of lines. One after another, the threads wrapped around his body, much like Do Chi. Slowly, Long Fei had originally been sitting cross-legged, but now he slowly stood up and stared at the great clan elder's huge, illusory face. Originally, these things should not be done by me, but you have angered me. I want to destroy everything here. Ha ha, ha ha. Destroy this place. Do you know what kind of place this is? This is the God's tribe. Destroy this place? With just you? Kid, you think too much of yourself. If you want to fight with my God's tribe, you don't have the qualifications. The great clan elder disdainfully sneered. Watch carefully how the 13th dragon ancestor peels its muscles and tendons. As soon as he finished, the great clan elder's shadow disappeared, leaving behind the image of a 13th dragon ancestor. 13 presbyter of God's tribe stood on top of the dragon heads. They were high up in the sky, as if they were gods who ruled over everything. Their eyes were filled with ridicule, and the skinning hooks in their hands lightly swayed. Descend. Crack, crack. An incomparably crisp sound rang out, and it pierced directly into the center of every dragon ancestor's brows. At that moment, the 13th dragon ancestor's eyes moved and quickly shrank back. Its body also began to tremble. A draconic roar came from his throat. His voice was trembling. This was a fear that came from the depths of his bones. Faced with the threat of death, they did not resist. On the other side, the 4 elders of the Heaven Lake sect were firmly controlling them. Even if they wanted to resist, they couldn't charge to get the seal's taboo, and if they couldn't, they could only allow themselves to be slaughtered. There was nothing they could do. They could only watch as God's tribe ravaged them. Quick, look! The dragon ancestor is trembling. The dragon's roar is trembling. Look! A huge scene has appeared in the sky. The Dragon King was tens of thousands of meters long, so not many people could see this much. Many people could not see what was happening, but after the scene appeared, everyone could see clearly. 13 presbyter of God's tribe stood on top of the 13th dragon ancestor's head. The skinning hook had already pierced the center of the 13th dragon ancestor's brows. Watch them all. Long Fei, you cowardly turtle. I don't care where you are. This is the territory of my God's tribe. Your dragon clan is not even qualified to be my God's tribe's watchdog. Open your eyes and look carefully. This is the result of going against my God's tribe. Ha ha ha. The great elder laughed and said, Do it. As soon as he finished, the 13 elders moved slightly. They grabbed the skinning hook that was stuck between their eyebrows and sliced it open. The dragon scales broke, and the dragon ancestor's spirit blood was drained dry without much left. Blood essence was the dragon's source of power. Now that their blood essence was gone, the defense of their bodies had been reduced to the lowest. The skinning hook easily pierced through the dragon's scale. With a sudden slash, with a flip of the dragon's skin, the dragon bone was immediately exposed. The dragon tendons were pulsing within his flesh. Skin peeling. More dragon skin. Bleed first, then flay the tendons. This should be the most painful for a dragon, right? Ha! The God's tribe is mighty and domineering. This is the God's tribe. The result of offending him should be like this. Serves you right. This is the end. The current dragon clan. Are there any dragons in this world? Dog tribe, huh? Please don't insult the dogs. They are better than the dragons. Ha ha. All sorts of mocking laughter rang out. Skinning and cramping. These scenes were simply too shocking. In an instant, Bing Hui was the first to be unable to hold it in. He could not tolerate his ancestors being trampled upon like this. The dignity of the dragon race was trampled upon in an instant. Boom! The ice flower turned into a dragon, and with a flap of its wings, it shot straight into the sky. Walala! It was also at this time. The man atop the mountain trembled slightly. It's that wyvern. A dragon of this level actually dared to appear? Little brother. It's just a bunch of trash. Long Fei is just a piece of trash. The people around him are also a bunch of trash. He did not finish his words. His throat had been cut, and blood was gushing out. He could not say a single word. Behind him, a cold dagger. Yi Mei's blade. It was also at this time that panic filled the crowd. People from the Xiaoyao city. It's those sinners. Are these people here to die? Mother asterisk her, this trash. Roar. With a howl of a wolf. The person who spoke was instantly pushed to the ground. Xiao Bai immediately transformed into his white wolf and bit off that person's neck and asked with a deep voice, "Who is the trash?" Fresh blood. He had transformed into a wolf, exposing himself and at the same time exposing Murong Xiong and the others. However, at this time, there was already nothing that he could not expose. Even if Xiao Bai and Bing He were not exposed, Murong Xiong himself would not be able to hold back his anger. God's tribe's words were too unpleasant. Boom! Murong Xiong took off his helmet, said with a heavy sound, "Today this daddy is here to take care of God's tribe. Whoever dares to stop me, this daddy will not let that happen." Murong Xiong revealed himself. The experts at the summit of the mountain were stunned yet again. It really is them. People of the Xiaoyao city. Murong Xiong, you won't be able to escape death today. He actually dares to appear here and wants to go all out against the God's tribe? Ha ha ha! Murong Xiong, don't you think it's funny? Suddenly, Murong Xiong's figure moved. His figure swept past the few people who mocked him and immediately followed with 5 fingers spread out. Space splitter. An uproar. The air around those powerhouse suddenly cracked. Moreover, their bodies were completely out of control, directly sucked in by the power of the space cracks. Their bodies continued to compress. Their bones exploded, thrusting out their bodies. Fresh blood madly gushed out. Their over 100 gene bodies were forcibly compressed into a small round ball, which was then swallowed by the space cracks. After swallowing it, the space recovered. Only a puddle of blood was left on the ground. Murong Xiong's eyes swept across and said, "Those who block me die." Vicious and domineering. On the other side, Tendapeo had also stepped on a peak overlord powerhouse under his feet. His right arm moved, transforming into a pitch-black cannon. Bam! With an explosive sound, the head exploded. The blade of the sword pierced through the two. Queen of Blood Moon was even more cruel. A powerhouse was killed by him in a frenzy. Even his scalp was torn off. In the end, he could not hold on any longer and fell to the ground. All of them were filled with rage. This rage finally exploded out. Boom! A loud explosion resounded. The ice and fire wings that were rushing towards Shrine broke apart as they heavily fell down. In that instant earlier, he had touched the God's tribe's formation. The power of the formation broke his wings. Ice and fire fell down. Xiao Bai flew up. Ice and fire. Blood spurted from the corner of Bing He's mouth as his face turned extremely pale. Humph! A bunch of dregs who don't know their place. The great clan elder snorted coldly, stared at Murong Xiong, and said, "I knew you would appear. I've also been waiting for you to show up. Murong Xiong, you've come today. Then you can forget about leaving." The great clan elder's voice was cold and sinister. He said, "Whoever can kill them will be able to obtain the power of ancient inheritance and become a descendant of God's tribe. They will then enter the shrine and receive the inheritance of the God's tribe's blood vein." As soon as he finished, red light flashed in the eyes of the powerhouse S at the peak of the mountain. The power of ancient inheritance. The power of ancient inheritance. Descendant of God's tribe. The inheritance of the God's tribe's blood vein. These rewards, that would also allow a person to be reborn and become someone who could truly become a God's tribe. This was the dream of the subordinate sex of Universal Realm. Only those who had become God's tribe were truly worthy of being called such a person. Only then would he be able to stand above others. Only a god. Otherwise, he would be an ant for the rest of his life and would be easily trampled to death. What the Grand Elder said made them feel as if chicken blood had been poured into their bodies. That kind of feeling, his entire body was boiling. His blood was boiling. All of them were staring coldly at Murong Xiong and the rest, revealing cold sneers as they slowly walked forward. Who were they? He was the leader of the various great sects in Universal Realm, the Great Clan Elder. It could be said that they were the peak powerhouse of the Universal Realm. There were a few hundred of them, as well as dozens of Sovereign Realm They were the outer disciples of the God's tribe. However, their identities could only be at the periphery because they did not have God's tribe blood vein nor did they have the power of ancient inheritance. As long as they obtained these, they were truly people of God's tribe. They understood the importance of this opportunity. The head elder said lightly, "Let's kill to our heart's content." As soon as he finished, one powerhouse after another surrounded Murong Xiong and the others. Murong Xiong, you better kneel on the ground and accept your death. Only then can you die a little more comfortably. Murong Xiong, you won't be able to escape today. All of you must die. Murong Xiong's side only had a dozen or so people, and they were going to face the peak powerhouse of this world. The disparity in strength? Murong Xiong did not mind. His lips curled up slightly as he said, "Why do I feel like it's easy to bully me? Am I, Murong Xiong, a soft persimmon? You can pinch me however you want?" An elder asked, "Do you think you can win?" Murong Xiong, Murong Xiong have never lost. You will definitely lose today. It was also at this time. Xiao Bai held back his tears, placed the ice and fire to the side, and immediately roared out, "Fuck your ancestors." Roar! The wolf's roar rumbled like thunder. The meridians on his body bulged, the sky was pitch black, and the wolf god's lances rained down. Walala! Walala! One of the powerhouse's eyes turned cold, his aura fluctuating, boundless saint. Buzz! An extremely strong energy aura shot out from his body and covered the entire sky. The wolf god's lances were all blocked. The strength of a Jizuan realm cultivator was incomparably sharp. Xiao Bai's strength was not strong enough. Seeing this situation, Xiao Bai gave up on using the wolf god's spear. Instead, he rushed forward. An animal dares to be so arrogant in front of me. Die! A man who looked like a Taoist priest had a glimmer in his eyes. He moved his body, and the sword on his waist disappeared. The aura of a martial saint instantly formed an intimidating aura. Kneel on the ground. Rumble. With an explosive sound, Xiao Bai's body sank. A powerful pressure instantly gushed into his mind. His cultivation base had yet to reach the martial saint realm, so he was simply unable to withstand the pressure. His speed suddenly slowed down. His strength was instantly crushed as well. His body felt heavy and he trembled nonstop. His knees were about to drop to the ground. Xiao Bai gritted his teeth so hard that they creaked as he desperately tried to defend himself. The Taoist powerhouse sneered. "You think a trash like you can resist? Just go to hell." Shua! The sword that had disappeared suddenly appeared, directly floating above Xiao Bai's head. As long as it passed through, Xiao Bai would definitely die. Xiao Bai felt the power behind his head and wanted to dodge, but his body was being pressed down, his speed was too slow, he could not dodge at all. "Ha ha! Die!" The Taoist priest powerhouse was excited. However, in an instant, the long sword suddenly disappeared for no apparent reason. The eyes of the Taoist priest powerhouse tightened. All the surrounding swords trembled, letting out buzzing sounds. Sword chime? What a strong sword intent. This! His eyes exploded and a sword appeared in his eyes. It was the sword that had just disappeared, and it was also the sword that suddenly flew out and stabbed towards the center of his brows. Crack! The sword pierced through. The powerhouse fell to the ground, his eyes bulging and his sword nailing him to the ground. It was also at this time. Elder swordsman moved slightly, and the sword intent that exuded from his body became incredibly strong. He slowly walked out and muttered, "Bullying my disciple, Who gave you the guts? What a strong sword intent. Look at his body. God's tribe curse mark. He's a wanted man. The God's tribe S and curse mark S on elder swordsman's body shone with a fluorescent light, as if they were all slave imprints. Their entire bodies and even their faces were the same. It was very dazzling. However, at this moment, he no longer cared about anything else. He knew that if he didn't fight today, then he wouldn't have another chance in the future. Such a strong sword intent. Could he be the sect masterly Xiao Yao who was killed by the God's tribe for 3 days and 3 nights and was piled up into a mountain of bones? The king of immortal swords? Is he the one who stole the God's tribe's ancient inheritance? The inheritance of the ancient sword's spiritual power's power? It must be him. I didn't expect that after so many years he was still alive. He exposed himself. Senior Mia let out a long breath and said, "Old Li, your hot blood isn't cold yet." The elder swordsman said indifferently, his eyes looking towards the sky. "Without revenge, how can blood be cold? Back then, the God's tribe killed my wife and children, annihilated my sect, implicated my Li family's 9 generations, and killed tens of thousands of my Li family's people. This enmity, I never forget a second. Today, this old man will bet everything. He didn't even want his life. Even if they lost in the end and died in battle, there would be no regrets." Senior Mia laughed excitedly. "How can blood be cold before taking revenge? Good. Let's have a good fight today." Boom! Senior Mia's robes suddenly ripped apart, revealing a body full of scars, strong as a bear's body. At the entrance of shrine, the group of elders from the God's tribe watched everything that was happening on the summit of the mountain of heaven with ice-cold expressions. An elder asked, "Grand Elder, do you really want to give them rewards?" "Reward? Haha! How could lowly beings like them be worthy of the God's tribe's blood vein? I'm just telling them it's a game. Why else would these dogs work for us?" Ha ha! All of the elders began to laugh. The great clan elder looked at a certain direction and said, "All that should have come. Now, only that brat Long Fei remains. It seems that he won't come. If that's the case, then let's kill all these trash first." Below God's tribe are ants. Below God's tribe are ants. In their eyes, they were gods. Other than their God's tribe S, they were mere commoners with lives like grass, so it didn't matter how many of them died. The Grand Elder's reward was just to make them work harder. Even if they managed to kill all of Murong Xiong's subordinates, they would not be able to obtain the God's tribe's blood vein legacy. However, yet, the words of the Great Elder made everyone feel as if they were on stimulants. They believed it, and this was only an opportunity to change their fates. Thus, the instant the Great Elder's words fell, the sect powerhouse S rushed towards Murong Xiong and the others without a care for anything else. Kill them. Let's attack together. The mighty God's tribe. They all rushed towards Murong Xiong and the others. All sorts of powerful techniques and destructive powers were unleashed. They were simply putting their lives on the line. Ha ha! The head elder smiled faintly as he looked at what was happening at the summit of the mountain. He said, "Don't you guys think that this is a fight between a group of dogs?" Ha ha! The elders behind him also laughed. A group of dogs fighting. This was the status of these people in the eyes of the God's tribe. It's just a dog. Murong Xiong's magic space spell continued to be released. Elder Swordsman's ancient sword spiritual power crazily crushed everything. The power of the Senior Mia was also unleashed to the maximum. There were several dozen people fighting against several hundred people, but they didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Instead, they seemed to be on the verge of being crushed. The sect powerhouse S on the summit of the sky retreated bit by bit. Overlord Realm Powerhouse S were like cannon fodder in this place, and were basically useless. Rumble. Spatial slash. Murong Xiong's hands moved, forming a cross as he struck out. Space split apart. A Sovereign Realm Powerhouse was directly dragged into the air and issued a series of screams. Murong Xiong said with a heavy voice, "Those who block me die. All of you scram to the side." You stupid fools! Are you really giving your God's tribe the inheritance? Will I really give you the power of the ancient inheritance? Think about it. Is it possible to do such a thing? Murong Xiong understood God's tribe very well. A race that regarded themselves as gods, the others were all ants. Will they keep their promise to ants? Impossible. However, these people could not listen to what Murong Xiong had to say. Even if they were to be forced to retreat step by step, they would still crazily charge forward. Bing Hua looked up at the sky and said, "City Lord Mu, there's no time. They're about to pull the dragon tendon out." Indeed, the dragon's skin split open and dragon scales flew in all directions as it crazily floated down. If the dragon skin was peeled off, it would become a dragon reeling tendon. If the dragon tendon was once again extracted, then the 13th dragon ancestor really would not have the slightest chance of surviving. Murong Xiong looked at the sky, and his pupils tightened. "Damn, you're giving me a hard time. I'm going all out." Elder Swordsman said, "You think of a way to go to the main entrance of Shrine. Leave this place to me." All right. Murong Xiong did not care so much. With a magic space spell, he could freely travel through space. "Murong Xiong, you can't escape." An old man stabbed his three-pronged sword into the air, and at the same time, the sword flew out of Elder Swordsman's hands. Bam! He was blocking the trident sword. Elder Swordsman said coldly, "I am in charge of this place. Sword, come." He clasped his hands together and quickly formed a seal. The power of the ancient inheritance on his body surged out crazily, layer after layer, forming an extremely strong sword intent. At this moment, the God's tribe curse mark on his body was extremely dazzling. His entire body was covered in imprints. Kill! Elder Swordsman's robes started to flutter, and his sword intent fell. In that instant, kacha, 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 the sky above the peak of the mountain seemed to be unceasingly cracking as streams of powerful energy rumbled into the minds of those people. An immortal sword suddenly flew out of their minds. Many people's pupils constricted. Sort of intent? Run! A loud sound was heard. The few Sovereign Realm Powerhouse-s reacted and quickly escaped. Elder Swordsman said solemnly, "It's too late. Die!" Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone's heart exploded as they all fell to the ground with their hearts broken. Blood gushed out of their mouths. This move was almost impossible to defend against. Only those innate realm powerhouse who reacted slightly faster managed to survive. However, when they stood up, Tandapeo, Tanglong, Sword Edge, Senior Mia, and the others all walked over and struck their heads heavily on their heads. Boom, boom, boom. All of them were killed, falling into pools of blood. The peak of the mountain grew quiet as well. Although these clan-leveled powerhouse were only in the sovereign realm, in front of the power of the ancient inheritance, their cultivation was simply too weak. Elder Swordsman retracted his aura, looked towards the sky, and said, "Now it's all up to City Lord Mu." The Senior Mie said, "The Mu clan are also the ancient family S. They control spatial legacies, and if used correctly, they can bring one plane of existence into another world. This is also the legendary power. Once, the first patriarch of the Mu clan did it. Murong Xiong's magic space spell is not weak either. I hope that he can break through the taboo in the God's tribe's array formation and bring the 13th dragon ancestor down here. This God tribe is so King ruthless, bleeding, skinning, and cramping. I'm worried about one thing right now." Elder Swordsman asked, "What is it?" Senior Mia said, "I am worried that Long Fei is really rushing over here. If he sees this scene, I'm afraid he would go crazy." Elder Swordsman said, "Don't mention him. Even I would be driven mad by this scene, much less him. I only hope that City Lord Mu can do it now and bring the 13th dragon ancestor away as long as it is possible." They had defeated these powerhouse-s just now. However, all of them knew clearly in their hearts that these powerhouse were not even scum when compared to the powerhouse of God's tribe. If they wanted to face the God's tribe head-on, they would have no chance at all. Moreover, There were many ancient strong in the gods' tribe, and any one of these people could easily crush them. Buzz! Suddenly, a sound was heard. Everyone tensed up. Look, it's City Lord Mu. Indeed, Murong Xiong appeared at the side of the dragon ancestor's tail. Murong Xiong roared out, and a large expanse of black void appeared behind him as he released his strongest spatial energy. See this power? The great elder smiled coldly. You want to show off your small amount of spatial energy in front of us? You overestimate yourself. Then, the great elder's gaze looked towards a certain direction. A figure landed. With a flip of his right palm, it covered the entire sky. A heavy blow came down. Rumble! Without waiting for Murong Xiong's dragon ancestor to enter the air, he smashed him down right into the ground with a palm. Boom! Boom! It descended vertically and landed directly on top of a mountain. The entire mountain exploded. The entire sky and mountain range shook violently. Rumble, rumble, rumble. There was a constant echo. City Lord Mu. Mayor. With a loud sound, the senior Mia moved and took the lead to fly out. However, without waiting for him to get close to Murong Xiong's landing point, the sky darkened once again. Tang Long's eyes darkened. Demonic flame. The destructive demonic energy within his body surged and heavily rolled out, directly entering a berserk state. It directly soared into the sky with a heavy sword in hand. Cut! Tang Long was a descendant of the Demon Destroyer clan. He had a natural ability to sense demons. He immediately sensed the appearance of the demonic palm, and he also instantly unleashed it in a berserk manner. But, bam! Rumble! A palm fell, and Tang Long was sent flying. He didn't even have a chance to resist. It was a complete and utter crushing. Devil Slayer Tang clan? He can't even withstand a single blow. A cold and contemptuous voice sounded out in the sky. Then, with a sweep of his right hand, an enormous palm print appeared in front of Senior Mia. Senior Mia's pupils contracted as he gritted his teeth and said, "Ah!" Boom! With an explosive sound, the huge palm grabbed Senior Mia and raised him up into the air before slamming him down heavily on the ground. Rumble! The ground caved in as another mountain peak exploded, causing the entire mountain to split open. 3 palm strikes, 3 completely crushed. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. In the sky, a tall and sturdy old man clad in devil armor coldly looked down on everything. His eyes were filled with ridicule as he sneered, a bunch of trash of the ancient world. Moreover, it was the demon that had been roused by the seal. Cluck, 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 cluck. Xiao Bai, Tandapeo, gritted his teeth as they resounded in the air. Looking at the ancient strong in the sky, their hearts were filled with anger and unwillingness. Ancient Strong looked at them coldly and said, "Are you unhappy? You want revenge? All of you can attack together." Completely contemptuous, the great elder laughed and said, "Did you hear that? Let all of you come at once. Don't you have the power of the ancient inheritance, Li Xiaoyao of the Fairy Sword sect? Come on, huh? Just you group of trash want to fight my god's tribe? Why don't you take a piss? Take into account your morals." Ha ha ha! The great elder mocked crazily. The people of God's tribe all laughed. They did not need to move at all. As long as the ancient world-s were there to watch, they would be here to watch the show. Seeing that Elder Swordsman and the others did not move, Presbyter of God's tribe was even more happy. Come on, aren't you here to save the dragon ancestor? Come on. I already told you all to come at me together, you bunch of trash. Ha ha! He was incomparably proud and arrogant. No one could contain their anger. Xiao Bai charged forward, but was instantly held back by the Elder Swordsman. Don't go. Xiao Bai said, I can't tolerate it. Elder Swordsman said, if you can't endure it, you have to. Going up there is just suicide. Tandapeo also could not tolerate it anymore and said, Elder Swordsman, then let's just watch on like this? Looking at the dragon ancestor pulling out the dragon tendon, seeing the city lord and the rest slowly dying, we have to do something. If we don't do anything, How can we follow our boss? At most, I'll just die. They all wanted to throw caution to the wind. It was not bad to leave the sect in peace, and it was not too late for a gentleman to take revenge 10 years later. However, he still had to endure it. Now they couldn't stand it any longer. The Queen of Blood Moon said, even if we did not act, he would have also attacked us. Elder Swordsman frowned and said, you girls retreat first, we block. Block it? Ha ha! The Great Elder laughed. How are you going to block this? Lord Zhang Mo, since they are not here, then I will have to trouble you to send them to hell. The Great Elder smiled. In midair, the Ancient Strong moved, his right hand flipped. Buzz! A wave of energy exploded outwards, spreading over 10,000 kilometers. Wherever the force went, it turned into a huge palm print that covered the sky and blocked out the sun. The entire summit of the mountain was covered by the huge palm. Looking up, it was as if the sky had turned completely black. Tandapeo muttered, this time, we can't get there. That's for the best. Damn it! Tandapeo's eyes shone with a bright light. He was not afraid in the slightest. The gun on his right arm suddenly turned, and his entire right arm became a huge, heavy cannon. It rumbled towards the sky. A cannonball the size of a water bucket could instantly blast a mountain flat, but the cannon shot out again and again, with no reaction at all. It was as if $1 of coins had been thrown into the water. Not even a single wave could be seen. Even so, Tandapeo did not stop either. Everyone was attacking, but their attacks were so pale and powerless. Facing the powerhouse, their power seemed weak. The great clan elder looked at everything and laughed complacently. Let's see who dares to challenge my god's tribe in the future. Let's see who dares to go against my god's tribe. Ha ha! Ha ha! All of you go to hell. The palm landed. Boom! The power behind the explosion caused the huge summit of the mountain to crumble. The 100,000 mountains were crushed into a flat piece of land. It was as if the summit of the mountain was a nail that was smashed into the ground. How powerful was this power? How valiant was he? After finishing the palm strike, Zhang Yimou didn't seem to enjoy enough as he heavily smacked down once again. Rumble! This time, a deep 5-finger mark appeared on the ground. The stone turned to powder. The tremor quickly spread out from deep within the Earth's core. The entire sky mountain range shook violently. When the Great Elder saw such a terrifying scene, he laughed. Ha ha! Ha ha! Many of the presbyter of God's tribes had prideful smiles on their faces. At the same time, their hearts quivered because Ancient Strong was too terrifying. The peak powerhouse of Universal Realm was sent flying with a slap. With just a few slaps, the entire army was completely annihilated. The Great Elder smiled. It should be quiet now. No one dares to play around in front of us anymore, right? Ha ha! It was also at this time. An elder said lightly, Great Elder, there's also the one with the 9 heavens. The Great Elder's face darkened as the corners of his eyes twitched. I forgot about him. How is he now? The elder's eyes turned cold. The Great Elder said, Speak. The elder replied weakly, reporting to Great Elder, that kid has already stepped into the 2nd heaven. And 2nd sky? The Great Elder looked even more displeased. And what? The elder said, moreover, all of the laws of annihilation from the 1st layered heavens have been absorbed by him. Each of the 9 heavens beneath the guillotine had a type of law energy. Each of the 9 heavens beneath the guillotine had a type of law energy. The first level was the power of the annihilation laws. Anything that enters is destroyed. However, not only did he not die, he even absorbed the law of annihilation's power. This, the Great Elder's eyes darkened. What did you say? The elder said, the law of annihilation within the 1st layer has been absorbed by him. The law of fire within the 2nd layer is also continuously being drained away. He didn't come here to challenge the 9 heavens when he placed the 9 heavens in a cultivation area. He came here to absorb the power within the 9 heavens. What should we do? He had seen madmen before, but never madmen like them. Running into the 9 layered heavens to train? The Great Elder said, Have you still not found his identity? The many elders shook their heads and said, he seemed to have appeared out of thin air. He did not have any identity, and no one recognized him. I just checked. Morong Xiong and the others did not recognize him either. He never appeared. Those who knew of his identity were basically all dead. The great elder said solemnly, I want to see just how many times you can endure, even if you absorbed all of the 9 heavens. But the great elder laughed sinisterly. Do you know why it is called the 9 heavens below the guillotine? Even if you were to break through to the 9th heaven, you won't be able to survive. The 9 layered heavens are the 9 layered heavens, and the guillotine are the guillotine. The guillotine were above the 9th heaven, the land of the Godslayer realm. Just as the great clan elder wanted the guillotine, a voice came from a nearby, Zhang and Mo, those people from earlier do not seem to be dead. As soon as he finished, the great elder was stunned. All the elders were also stunned. That kind of attack didn't kill him? Impossible. The great clan elder asked curiously, Lord Zhang and Mo, is there something wrong? You are so powerful. How can I still be alive? The 2 attacks had completely wiped out the entire mountain, and Luli wasn't dead yet? Impossible. Zhang Mo said, if I say they didn't die, then they didn't die. He didn't want to explain it all. The Grand Elder didn't dare to reprimand him, and he could only smile apologetically. Zhang Mo said, but you don't have to worry, they really aren't dead yet, but they won't last long, and they don't have the slightest bit of combat power. If you want them to die faster, then send people to kill them. There's more. Don't bother me with trash like that in the future, understand? I'm not your dog shit little brother of the God's tribe, not someone you can order around. Even if the Emperor Xian is in front of me, he wouldn't dare to be too presumptuous. Zhang Mo spoke in a deep voice. The great elder was so frightened that he did not even dare make a sound. Looking at the Zhang Mo flying towards the shrine, the great clan elder heaved a sigh of relief and said, immediately send people down there. If you want to cut the grass, you have to get rid of the roots. These people will all die. Yes, sir. Several elders flew down with their disciples. Huff, huff, drink it. In the 9 heavens sect, Long Fei was floating in the air with his legs crossed, and the purple-colored dough qi surrounding his body as he frantically absorbed the power of the fire laws. Buzz. Suddenly, the second sky shattered. A flame appeared on Long Fei's palm, and he said, second heavenly layer, break. The moment he finished speaking, with a single step, he ascended to the 3rd heaven. It was also at this time. The 9 heavens shook violently. Grand Elder, the second sky has shattered. That boy has already entered the 3rd heaven, the laws of the wind. The great elder shouted, I understand. He's only broken through the 2nd layer. There's still the 7th layer after this. Even if he were to rush through all of them, what can he do? I still have to die. The great elder did not do it on purpose. No one would be able to pass the 9th level of the refinement realm. If he tried to break through, he would be beaten back to his original form by the guillotine. Because there was an Emperor Xian's taboo on Guillotine S. As long as they broke through the 9th heaven, they would trigger the taboo and be beaten back to their original state. There was no need to worry at all. However, his speed was a little fast, but the great elder was feeling a little unhappy in his heart. Suddenly, Zhang Mo stopped. He turned around in an instant. An extremely strong power burst out from his body. The great elder and the others were also covered by this power. The great clan elder tensed up and immediately resisted. He respectfully asked, Master Zhang Mo, what's wrong? Zhang Mo did not spare the great clan elder another glance as he smiled excitedly. Finally, an expert has arrived. The great clan elder swept his gaze around and did not find anyone. There was not a single person within a 10,000-kilometer radius, and some of them had even died from Zhang Mo's 2 palms. Just now, Skymount City had already been reduced to rubble. Not a single person was alive. The great clan elder muttered, Is there something wrong with this Zhang Mo's head? Where is everyone? Yeah, I didn't see any of them. Who dares to come here now? Great clan elder, could it be that brat Long Fei? The great elder immediately laughed. Ha ha! If his brain was flooded by water, he might appear. If he really appeared, then he would absolutely be an idiot. Zhang Yimou did not return to the shrine. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly. A hint of a smile appeared on his face. An excited smile. In the distance, Long Fei's body trembled nonstop. Just now, he felt that he was about to be scalded to death, and even his fiery eyes of truth had uncontrollably appeared. But now he felt like he was in the middle of a huge eye of the storm. The wind blades were like flying knives, constantly slashing at his body. It was completely unbearable. Holy **T. What happened to Laozi? Long Fei was speechless. Along the way, he felt as if he was going to die. Suddenly, he swam on the sickle of the god of death, then suddenly fell into the sea of fire. Now, there was a storm. He even wondered if the system was giving him a problem upgrading his body. System girl, why are you still sleeping? Can you explain it to me? Long Fei wanted to wake her up from her slumber, but no matter what, he couldn't wake her up. The further he walked, the more powerful he became. Even though Long Fei's body didn't have any injuries, but that kind of feeling was as if he was experiencing something. Suddenly, the Wild King stopped. The young Taoist looked at him and asked, "Why aren't you moving?" It was also at this time. The space between young Taoist's eyebrows tightened. This aura. He felt it too. The Wild King became excited and said, "This is the most powerful aura I felt when I came to this world." Interesting, haha. He was a battle maniac and a madman. The stronger the opponent, the more excited he would be. It was also at this time. Young Taoist looked up to the sky and said, "Senior brother, what's hanging in the sky?" Long Fei looked over and did not react for a moment and said, "Who dares to hang such a huge snake in the sky? What are you doing?" Suddenly, Long Fei's pupils abruptly tightened. His memories of the seal had stopped, but the black dragon had once appeared. The moment he saw the black dragon, his pupils rapidly shrank into pinpricks, and he clenched both his fists. 1, 2, 13. 13 Dragon Patriarchs. F***ck me. BF** King God's tribe. 13 dragon patriarchs swayed in the wind. Their dragon bodies were like dried-up willow branches, lightly swaying in the air without any signs of life. 13 dragon patriarchs swayed in the wind. Their dragon bodies were like dried-up willow branches, lightly swaying in the air without any signs of life. The skin fell off and the blood dried up. 13 presbyter of God's tribe S were truly pumping dragon tendons, and they were also extremely happy. The scene was appalling. Long Fei's memories were affected by the seal, but when he saw this scene, his mind was immediately stimulated. At this moment, Long Fei's fury was rising crazily. F***ck. Long Fei said in a heavy voice. Young Taoist asked, "Senior brother, what's wrong?" Long Fei didn't say much as the feather god wings behind him moved. Boom! He immediately dashed out. Feather god wings could not only fly, but they could also attack faster. Young Taoist and Quang Wang had never seen Long Fei's expression before, so they tensed up and didn't dare to stay any longer as they immediately followed. With a speed as fast as lightning, Long Fei attacked ferociously. Of the 13 dragon patriarchs, he only recognized the black dragon, but all of them were like his brothers. He could no longer suppress his anger. They ran like mad. Far away, in midair, the corner of Zhang Mo's mouth curled up as he said, "It's about to appear. Haha, this is the real powerhouse." Zhang Yimou did not return to shrine, but waited quietly. Great Clan Elder still could not sense any dangerous auras, and did not understand what the Zhang Yimou was waiting for. It was also at this time. A mental message was transmitted to the Grand Elder's mind. Grand Elder, as expected, none of them are dead. Just like what Lord Zhang Yimou had said. Although they are not dead yet, they are on the verge of death and do not have any fighting capabilities. Killing them now is easier than stepping on an ant. The Great Elder smiled and said, "Then I will trample them all to death." He didn't want them to live. Since he wasn't dead, then he might as well die. Yes, sir. Within the mountain, Li Xiaoyao was on the verge of death. He had to bring the strength of the ancient sword's spiritual power to the extreme in order to stop the pressure from the Zhang Mo. But even so, they were still unable to withstand it, and were all heavily injured. And 3 other Presbyter of God's tribe surrounded them. They all had lofty expressions. Tandapeo tried his best to stand up and said solemnly, "This bunch of God's tribe dogs, even if I have to die." Not waiting for him to finish, an intimidating aura came crashing down. "Kneel down." Boom! Instantly crushing Tandapeo to the ground. He knelt there, blood flowing out from the corner of his mouth. Tandapeo was trying his best to struggle, but not at all. Not just him. No one was able to make it here. In order to block the attacks of the Zhang Mo, they had all used up all the energy in their bodies. God's tribe dog, fuck your ancestor, Xiaobai roared. Even when he struggled to stand up, he was also heavily crushed by this pressure. Kneel on the ground. All of them were being crushed. What they wanted to do now was to drag a few descendant of God's tribe down with them before they died. Understood. Don't worry, Grand Elder. None of them will be able to escape. Receiving the orders from the Great Elder, one of the elders coldly smiled and said, "The Great Elder said to kill them all." Immediately, an elder walked to the side of Elder Swordsman and sneered, "Li Xiao Yao, back then you escaped. I never thought you would actually dare to appear again and fight against the God's tribe. The last time I annihilated your fairy sword sect was to give you a reminder fighting the God's tribe would not end well. I never thought you would still dare to come. You escaped last time. Let's see how you can escape this time." An elder stared at Queen of Blood Moon and said, "This little lady is not bad. Anyway, they're going to die. Why don't you let us have a good time before we die?" "Ha ha, I think so too. These women are all pretty good looking. It must be great." "Ha ha." Some of the disciples also revealed an evil, lewd smile. Queen of Blood Moon's body slightly shrank. An elder came to her side. "Little girl, don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. As long as you can make me feel good, maybe I will spare your life." "Gudong." As he spoke, that elder swallowed his saliva and rubbed his hands. He had a pockmarked face and a gigantic mole on the corner of his mouth. He was as ugly as he could be, and just by looking at him, he was able to make others feel disgusted. He walked to Queen of Blood Moon's side and untied the belt on his pants. His face had an evil, lewd smile. "Ha ha, little lady, come on." Everyone was furious. However, one by one, they were forced to kneel on the ground, unable to do anything. Su began to cry loudly, "Big Brother Long Fei. Big Brother Long Fei. Where are you, Big Brother Long Fei? Hurry up and come over." He saw that the elder was only left with his underpants. Lame could not help but shout out, "Long Fei, where are you? Hurry up and show up. Quickly, I'm begging you, hurry up and show up." They cried and roared at the top of their lungs. Those Presbyter of God's tribe all laughed complacently. "It doesn't matter who you call. No one can save you, huh? This is the result of fighting with the God's tribe." "Ha ha, ha ha." All of them laughed wildly. The elder's eyes lit up, his hands on his underpants. Staring at Queen of Blood Moon's chest, he said, "Young lady, after serving me well, you will be able to live a few more minutes. Do your best." "Ha ha." He moved his hands slightly and was about to take off his pants. At this moment, a red light flashed. Crack! The Presbyter of God's tribe's body was split into two from the waist down, becoming two halves. His body slowly slid down, fresh blood gushing out, his eyes staring at one place. Bam! It fell to the ground. Voila! Fresh blood spurted out. The surrounding people were all shocked. What happened just now happened too fast. They didn't even have time to react. Just as the elder's body was about to fall to the ground, a man stood there, his eyes blazing. A special power was in his right hand, a power that he had never seen before. Immediately, many of the descendant of God's tribes' eyes darkened. "Who are you? Brat, you dared to kill Presbyter of God's tribe. Today you are dead for sure. You're courting death." It was also at this time. The man turned slowly. In that instant, Queen of Blood Moon's eyes flashed, tears flowing down. "Hubby." At this moment, Lanmei Susu, they called out immediately, big brother Long Fei. Boss, kid, you're still here. Elder Swordsman said weakly. Long Fei saw that each and every one of them was heavily injured and their bodies were covered in blood. When he saw the naked presbyter of God's tribe, he clenched his fists tightly and said, "Sorry, I came too late." It's him. It's him. It's Long Fei. He is Long Fei. He's here. The people of God's tribe were slightly shocked, but they did not panic. After the shock, their eyes were full of ridicule and excitement. The great clan elder didn't count, but the words of the Emperor Xian were one is one, and definitely wouldn't count. Long Fei was the #1 wanted criminal. If he killed him, he would receive the Emperor Xian's reward. No one is to send a sound transmission to the Grand Elder. Let's take this brat's head off. Emperor Xian's reward will be ours. Haha. He's just one person. What can he do? Nothing. That's right. We could take care of him. That way, we can be the meritorious ministers of the God's tribe. The two elders whispered. At the same time, their eyes revealed excitement, and they laughed coldly. Long Fei, you dog. As soon as he finished, Long Fei raised his gaze and clenched his fists tightly. Buzz. The power of eternity was surging. His figure moved. Bam! The head of the elder flew 100 meters away and was immediately snapped off by Long Fei's fist. Long Fei clenched his teeth and said, "Both of you will die. Both of you will die. Both of you will die." Yi Zichen clenched his teeth. The fury on his body burned crazily. He didn't dare to imagine what would happen if he was even a few minutes slower. He didn't dare to imagine such a thing. His heart was filled with violence. He needed to kill in order to eliminate the ruthless aura in his body. A violent, murderous punch. Those descendant of God's tribe were slightly startled. Without showing any fear, the elder sneered, "Ha ha, brothers, attack together and kill him. Each of you will obtain the position of presbyter of God's tribe." Kill! A savage sound rang out. Many of the descendant of God's tribe rushed towards Long Fei without a care for their own safety. Not far away, young Taoist wanted to attack, but he was stopped by the Wild King. He shook his head and said, "Don't go, he needs to vent. Whether it's killing or getting beaten, he needs to vent." Young Taoist said, "The power of eternity of senior brother is not very flexible at the time. If something happens, how will I explain it to master?" Kuang Wang said, "Who can kill him? His cultivation base seemed very low, but he is the eternal Lord, the person the eternal coffin shows. Do you think he will die? Can ordinary people kill him? Also, haven't you noticed this recently? He did not cultivate, but his control over the power of eternity is getting stronger and stronger. If one were to say that he was only able to touch the doorstep of Hall of Eternal Life, then he has already been completely buried in the doorstep." Kuang Wang had been paying attention to the power of eternity that erupted from Long Fei's body the entire time. What he said, young Taoist heard his master's words and said, "This is also a type of experiential learning." Up, kill him, kill him. Dozens of descendant of God's tribe took out all kinds of treasures, releasing all kinds of killing moves, all of them resonating with Long Fei. Long Fei stood in place, his gaze sweeping across them as he coldly spoke. "I once swore with my own blood that I would definitely turn over God's tribe. Now, starting from here, if the God's tribe is not eliminated, I will never stop killing." Buzz! The power of eternity on his right arm shook. Rumble! A powerful shock wave swept out. In an instant, the descendant of God's tribe and elders who pounced on him were all turned to powder. Even his primordial spirit was crushed. Not a single one remained. Long Fei could not find any other method to replace this kind of massacre. Not only did he need to kill the people from the God's tribe, he also needed to completely exterminate the soul of the God's tribe, even if they were ghosts. Dozens of descendant of God's tribe disappeared. Long Fei's anger did not decrease at all. He turned and looked at them, took out a few pills and said, "You guys take these first. Xiaobai, come over." Xiaobai walked up and said, "Boss, what do you want me to do?" Long Fei asked, "Did the dragon ancestor in the sky follow me before?" Xiaobai nodded his head. Yes, when they were in the profound sky continent, they appeared. The 13th dragon ancestor had been following you during the battle, and they had always been protecting you. Bing was said weakly, Boss, God's tribe is too much. They are too much. First, let the blood flow, then flay the skin, and then the tendons will be pulled. If the dragon tendon is pulled, then they... Long Fei clenched his fists tightly and shouted, I know. It was also at this time. Queen of Blood Moon grabbed Long Fei and said, Hubby, don't go. Su Su also shook his head and said, Big brother Long Fei, God's tribe is really too strong. Don't go, okay? Lan Mei added, 13th dragon ancestor are just a trap and are there to kill you. If you were to go back at this time, you would fall into their trap. Elder Swordsman also said weakly, Brat, I know that you are burning with anger and that you are anxious for revenge, but you really cannot go. There are many ancient strong-s in Shrine who are not a match for you. Long Fei struggled free from Queen of Blood Moon's hands, looked at each and every one of them and said, You are all injured to this extent. If I don't do anything, would I still be human? Queen of Blood Moon said with tears streaming down her face, Hubby, I've never begged you for anything. Today I'm begging you. Don't go, okay? Elder Swordsman said, You are the only one who can fight against God's tribe right now. And if you don't exist anymore, then this universal realm will have no hope in the future. Xiaobai said, Boss, what eldest sister-in-law and Elder Swordsman said is right. You have always been telling us that as long as we live, there will be hope. The God tribe was too strong, too strong. Zhang Mo's palm attack just now covered the sky and the sun. That power was something they couldn't shake. In front of Zhang Mo, they felt like they were nothing more than ants. He wasn't a match at all. He couldn't stop it at all. If Zhang Mo had used his full strength just now, they would have died a long time ago. Long Fei looked at them, his heart heavy. Too weak, I'm still too weak. Crack, Long Fei said in a heavy voice. I know that God's tribe is very strong, but there are some things that must be done. Wait for me here. The feather god wings behind Long Fei moved, extended out, and fiercely flew towards the sky. It had to be done. He was a man. He was Xiaobai's boss. He was Queen of Blood Moon's husband. He is Long Fei. If he did not make it in time for today's incident, what would be the consequences? It was hard to imagine. The reason why he became strong was to protect the people around him. If he couldn't even protect his own family, then what was the point in becoming strong? What was the meaning of living? So what if the God's tribe is strong? He would be stronger. It shot up into the sky like a rocket. As he flew in the air, Long Fei bellowed, Emperor Xian, get out here right now. Emperor Xian, get out here. Emperor Xian, get out here. Roar. The voice carried the power of eternity and quickly spread out for tens of millions of kilometers, continuously spreading outwards, finally covering the entire universal realm. Emperor Xian, get out here. Emperor Xian, get out here. Emperor Xian, come out and die. The echoes continued to come back. The entire universal realm was trembling because of it. Someone is challenging the Emperor Xian. Who is it? He actually dares to challenge the Emperor Xian, who's tired of living. Damn, is this guy courting death? Challenge the Emperor Xian. This is a challenge to the god. All of a sudden, all the people of the universal realm looked up at the sky. This was because they knew that the God's tribe was within the Shrine S of the heavenly region and also in the sky. They wanted to know who was so savage to actually dare to challenge the Emperor Xian. Everyone thought that this person was overestimating himself. He would die soon. His voice spread throughout the entire universal realm, and at the same time, exploded within the shrine. All of a sudden, many presbyter of God's tribe quickly flew out. Who is it? Is that the guy from the 9 heavens? Report. It's the person flying up from the mountain. It seems to be like Long Fei. The great elder's pupils constricted and the corners of his mouth curled up coldly. He said excitedly, I didn't expect that my brain would actually be flooded and that I would actually dare to come here die. Humph, you dog, you dare to challenge Emperor Xian. Today, We'll see if you live to see tomorrow's sun." The great clan elder was startled and asked, "Where are the Zhang and Mo people?" Reporting to great clan elder, "Zhang and Mo is still guarding there." The great elder sneered and said, "Have Zhang and Mo send him back to the west with a single palm. Let's go take a look and see how this long family kid died." Ha ha. The one-punch presbyter of God's tribe quickly walked out. In midair, Long Fei stood in the air, looking at the 13th dragon ancestor's body, at the 13 elders who were grabbing the dragon tendon and about to pull it out. His anger grew even more ferocious. Ah! With a furious roar, the feather godwings on Long Fei's back moved again and charged forward even faster. Buzz! A buzzing sound was heard. Next, the sky suddenly darkened, as if a layer of sky had suddenly collapsed and came crashing down. In the distance, Zhang Mo said coldly, "Remains of the dragon race? You don't even have a dragon body? You want to overturn the heavens? Get out of my way." He could tell at a glance that Long Fei possessed dragon blood essence. However, as a dragon that possessed dragon blood essence but lacked a dragon's body, this kind of dragon race was completely useless. The dragon race's greatest strength was not their strength or speed, but their physical bodies. The physical body of the strongest being on the surface. A dragon without a body is nothing. Great clan elder, Zhang Mo has made his move. The great elder immediately smiled. A single slap will grind that kid into dust. Haha, look at this attack. Wow, it's like the heavens are crushing us. Kill him. The sky darkened, and heavy pressure came crushing down. Long Fei's eyes turned sinister. His speed did not slow down by even a bit as he crazily charged forward, watching the black palm strike down, all the power in his body surging forth. Just as he was about to explode, a figure rushed up behind him. Mad King. He smiled excitedly and said, "Leave this small fry to me." He waved his right hand. The devil's bat leaks in his hand roared, and the muscles on Quang Wang's body exploded. He gripped the axe tightly and swung it towards the black sky. Boom! The two forces collided. A beam of light shot out from the forceful shockwave, causing space to split open in midair. The giant palm was flipped over. Zhang Mo's body retreated. His face turned ugly. He stared at the Wild King and asked, "Who are you?" The Savage King grinned and said, "I am your ancestor." Zhang Mo glared at him. "You're courting death." He turned over his huge palm. This time, the sky, which was thousands of miles high, was suddenly blocked. Moreover, when a strong, ancient power surged out crazily, the space of the universal realm could not take it and started to crack continuously. Seeing this, Long Fei was secretly shocked in his heart and asked, "Quang Wang, can you do it?" The Wild King laughed. "No problem. You go and do your own thing. I can take care of this little guy in a few minutes." Wild King was just one word, crazy. Zhang Mo is also a superpower house, but the Savage King didn't care about him at all. Seeing the black mass, the Wild King rubbed the bridge of his nose and said, "Your father has never met anyone who can fight here. You're not bad. You have some strength. However, just this little bit of strength is not enough. A big slap, then I'll destroy it." Buzz! His figure disappeared. Zhang Mo's pupils tightened. His reaction was also extremely fast. The moment he saw the great barbarian king disappear, he immediately flipped his palm and clenched it tightly. In an instant, Quang Wang stood in the center of Zhang Mo's palm and clenched his 5 fingers, as if he was a rootless heaven pillar crushing down. "Your reactions are pretty good. It's just a pity. Too bad it's not fast enough." Quang Wang smiled excitedly as his body slightly sank. He glared at the center of his brows like an angry Buddha, silently chanting, "Wild God art, 10,000 rampage heavens." Boom! A beam of light shot out from his body. In an instant, his figure transformed into tens of thousands of beams of light, each of them wielding a battle axe. Then, a heavy blow came down. Boom! Boom! Rumble! Every attack was a critical strike, and every critical strike exploded on the Zhang Mo's palm like an explosion. Rumble. Walala. The dark sky seemed to have cracked, as holes appeared one after another. Zhang Mo also let out a blood-curdling scream. At the same time, he was still using his strength. Kuang Wang laughed. What a mess. Long Fei looked at Zhang Mo and knew that he was no match for the Raging King. He also increased his speed and rushed toward shrine. The great clan elder's eyes darkened. Seeing the great Zhang Mo heavily injured, he coldly said, useless trash. It was also at this time. Long Fei was about to rush to the entrance of the shrine. The great clan elder laughed sinisterly. Array open. Boom! In an instant, Long Fei felt like he was being sucked in by a powerful force, and he fell down, unable to control his own body. He turned his head to the side and saw that behind him was an endless abyss. The great elder smiled sinisterly. Go to hell. Ha! You want to fight me? You overestimate yourself. The God Tribe formation was a very powerful formation. It came from the hands of the Emperor Xian as well, and was similar to the great protective formation of the shrine. So far, no one had been able to break through. Just as Long Fei fell into the endless abyss, a few golden runes suddenly appeared behind his back and directly pushed him up into the sky. It was also at this moment. Young Taoist smiled faintly and said, Senior brother, let me pass this trial. As soon as he finished, he fell into the abyss. Long Fei flew up and stood at the main entrance of the shrine. The Raging King blocked the Zhang Mo, and the young Taoist broke into the God's Tribe formation in Long Fei's place. The Raging King blocked the Zhang Mo, and the young Taoist broke into the God's Tribe formation in Long Fei's place. At this moment, Long Fei stood at the entrance of the God's Tribe palace. Eyes were the fiery eyes of truth. The power burning in his right hand was power of eternity. It would appear and disappear at times, making it impossible to understand. Seeing him appear, the great clan elder's gaze tensed up as he stared at Long Fei and laughed coldly. Congratulations, you are the only person in the past 10 million years who has not obtained the permission of the God's Tribe to stand here. At the same time, you have to tell me that you are going to die soon. The great elder's eyes were filled with disdain. What did Long Fei count for? In his eyes, Long Fei had never been a problem. He had never even placed Long Fei in his eyes because there was simply no need for him to, and Long Fei did not have the qualifications either. Right now, even the dragon race was being stepped on by the God's Tribe. What could a mere remnant of the dragon race do? There was nothing to be done. They were just here to throw away their lives. Long Fei did not speak further and said solemnly, Release the 13th dragon ancestor. Her voice was very cold. Fury. Ha ha. The great elder sneered and said, Are you begging me? If you're begging someone, then you have to act as if you're begging someone. You want me to let them go? Sure, kneel down first. The Grand Elder was extremely pleased with himself. Even if Long Fei brought Rampage King and Young Taoist, he was confident. There were many ancients strong in the shrine, and they were not the strongest. Did he need to be afraid of Long Fei? Long Fei's eyes darkened, and his voice became even colder. As if he had come from hell, he stuttered each word. I said release the 13th dragon ancestor. The words seemed to carry a flame. The great elder's expression turned sinister. An elder stepped forward, pointed at Long Fei's nose and bellowed, You, a waste of warrior realm, dare to make a ruckus in front of us? As soon as he finished, Long Fei raised his fiery eyes of truth, and his figure moved. Boom! With one step, he landed in front of the presbyter of God's Tribe who was speaking. Seeing Long Fei in front of him, he did not hesitate at all as well. The power of the God's Tribe surged and struck towards the center of Long Fei's brows with a palm as he yelled, Die! However, before his palm could strike down, his neck was already locked onto by Long Fei's arm. Long Fei stared at the great clan elder and said, Let them go. As he spoke, he exerted force with his arm, exploding forth. Crack! The elder's neck was immediately torn apart by Long Fei, and half of his body kneeled in front of Long Fei. With his head on the ground, Long Fei stomped his feet and said heavily, "Let them go." Bam! The head exploded, brain matter and blood splattered on the ground. The faces of all the presbyter of God's tribe darkened. Many of their elders immediately took a step back to kill the presbyter of God's tribe right in front of their eyes. Everyone in God's tribe saw this move. The great clan elder's face was extremely ugly as he stared at Long Fei. An elder spoke out, "You dare to kill presbyter of God's tribe? Kid, you're dead today." Heaven's fusion. Both of his palms moved, and energy emitted explosive booms in the air. The power of the God's tribe surged as he struck out with a palm that heavily exploded towards Long Fei. "Die!" the elder roared. The corner of Long Fei's mouth lifted slightly. "I'm killing your presbyter of God's tribe." Boom! He waved his right hand, and rumbling sounds filled the air. Boom! The power of the heavens fusion shattered. The elder staggered. His face was pale, staring at Long Fei, but he realized that Long Fei had already disappeared. A cold shiver went down his spine. Crack! A head flew down, and a single stomp from the foot smashed the head into the ground. The system sounded out. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing presbyter of God's tribe. Do you want to ingest his level? Ding! Congratulations to the player Long Fei for obtaining the power of ancient inheritance. With your combined strength, do you want to cultivate it? Long Fei directly ignored the level aspect. Back then, Long Fei had even given up on the rank of Uter space demons in the seal. It would be better to keep his body at rank 1. This was a powerful advantage for him. Long Fei did not give up on the power of the ancient inheritance. Ding! System notification. Cultivating success. Basically, any presbyter of God's tribe who could mix in even a little would have the power of an ancient inheritance, which was bestowed to them by the Emperor Xian. However, the ancient inheritance that they were cultivating did not truly come from the ancient world, but from the Emperor Xian. Every single one of the power of ancient inheritance was like the blood essence flowing through the body of the Emperor Xian, and every single loss was as clear as day. Ancient world. In a gloomy place, Emperor Xian raised his eyes and released a sharp light. Opposite him sat 2 white-haired men. When the man saw the light in Emperor Xian's eyes, he asked, "Brother Xian, what happened?" Emperor Xian said, "Nothing." The man said, "If Brother Xian has something to do, then go deal with it first. We can push the matter of entering the Ashura abyss a little further. Since the ancient world is almost under our control, there are only a few special areas left. There is no need to rush." Emperor Xian said firmly, "The matter of entering the Ashura's chasm battlefield cannot be postponed." Another man said, "That's right. If we were to delay Master's plan, then the consequences would not be something that we can bear." Emperor Xian said, "Don't worry. I will take care of the matters regarding Universal Realm." The man's left hand moved, and a magical equipment, like a small collar, appeared out of thin air on his palm. He said, "Brother Xian, this is a soul-locked chain, a supreme divine treasure. It's also impossible for us to walk out of the void hole." Another man also took out something and said, "This is a Zhun Tian divine seal. It will be destroyed 10,000 times under the divine seal. No physical body will be able to withstand its attack. You should also carry it with you." These 2 things were supreme-level divine treasures. Even in the ancient world, it would be considered a top-notch divine treasure, let alone in the universal realm. Emperor Xian said, "Then, thank you very much." The idea moved, forming a seal with one hand. A clone condensed out from Emperor Xian's body. The Emperor Xian passed these 2 items to his clone and said, "Go to the universal realm and take a look at what exactly happened there." The doppelganger shivered slightly, then disappeared with the item in his hand in the blink of an eye. 2 heads of presbyter of God's tribe were smashed apart by Long Fei in succession. Long Fei's eyes burned with flames as he stared at the great clan elder. Once again, he said, "I said it. Release the dragon ancestor." The great elder looked as if he had been humiliated. Anger flared in his eyes, and he said coldly, "I heard that your dragon ancestor would only be crippled after he used the dragon tendon. Listen to me." His voice shook. The head elder said with a loud voice, "Pull out their dragon tendons." At this moment, Long Fei rushed forward with endless fury. "Pull out their dragon tendons. Pull out their dragon tendons." The great elder roared. He was thoroughly enraged. To consecutively crush two presbyter of God's tribe in front of him, how could the might of the God's tribe possibly remain? What face did he have? What would happen if he didn't return the color? The great elder roared. 13 presbyter of God's tribe who were standing on top of the dragon head picked up the skinning hook and hooked the dragon tendon. The dragon ancestor let out a wail. Roar! Elder Tian Chi tightly restrained them, but they were still unable to move. They could only let themselves be manipulated. However, even if they could resist now, it would be of no use. Drying away the dragon blood and having their dragon skin peeled off, they were incomparably weak now. To rescue them was too difficult. It was simply too difficult. However, even if he still had a breath of air left in Long Fei, he would still risk it all. This was because they were the dragon ancestors, his own brothers. He was also one of his own clansmen. With the order from the great clan elder, Long Fei bellowed in rage. Her body moved, and in an instant, she grabbed onto the great clan elder's throat, raising her hand with force. The great elder was immediately lifted into the air. Long Fei's eyes were brimming with anger. He roared once again. Ah! Boom! The burning fury on Long Fei's body could be seen with the naked eye. He stared at the great clan elder who was lying on the ground and shouted, "Release them!" The great clan elder laughed coldly. "Ha ha! Do you think it's possible?" Then die." Long Fei punched out. Bam! It heavily smashed into the face of the head elder. A powerful shock wave burst out from the ground. This punch, presbyter of God's tribe simply could not withstand it. However, when Long Fei pulled out his fist, a sneer came out from the deep pit. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. Slowly, the great elder crawled out from the deep hole. There wasn't the slightest injury on his body. Not only that, the aura on his body was very special. Evil. Kill me? Even if you add all 10 of them together, it won't work. The great elder smugly smiled. Do you know what kind of power I train in? Undead power. You can kill me? Ha ha, how ignorant. The grand elder mocked. The power of ancient inheritance he cultivated and was immortal. He wouldn't die even if he was attacked. The reason he could become the great clan elder of the God's tribe was also because of this. After cultivating for so many years, he had already cultivated the power of the ancient inheritance to the great perfection stage. If he didn't die, he wouldn't be injured. He hadn't even been injured by any powerful attacks. If he couldn't even injure her, how could he die? The great elder laughed sinisterly. Brat, are you in despair? Ha ha. And at the moment he laughed. Boom. With an explosive sound, his robe burst apart, revealing his shriveled black body. Like an old locust tree, his body was pitch black, and there was no luster to be seen on his skin. However, that evil power seemed to have grown stronger. He stared at Long Fei and squinted his eyes, saying, "Is someone like you fit to fight God's tribe?" Boom! He exploded forth with his strength. Buzz! An overwhelming amount of energy rushed towards Long Fei from all directions. The head elder floated up and said gloomily, "Feel the despair." Boom! His body vanished. In the next second, he was right in front of Long Fei, and the energy in all directions suddenly shrank back, directly gathering into his fist and striking down fiercely at Long Fei's abdomen. Die! Immortal energy! Ha ha! Great Elder might not die, but if he were to punch out now, that kid would probably be reduced to smithereens. Why not? And yet, he had to make a move against the Great Elder. The Great Clan Elder is a man who fought alongside the Emperor Xian. He cultivates the front ranks of the ancient inheritance. Even if I don't die, I'll beat you until your scalp goes numb. Ha ha! Look at him! He doesn't even know how to react. With a stupefied expression, he's going to die soon. Many of the elders began to mock him. The great elder of God's tribe was not because of his age, but because he had fought with the Emperor Xian before and was someone who had lived for a very long time. The power of the ancient inheritance he cultivated and was also the strongest. Undead power had been cultivated to a super realm. Long Fei stood in his original position without moving, as if he had not reacted to it. His eyes were even more gloomy and cold as he watched the great clan elder's fist flying towards him. All of this, in Long Fei's eyes, it was like a slow movement. The corner of Long Fei's mouth curled up and said, "What a coincidence! What you cultivate is not death. What I cultivate is eternal life. Let's see who is stronger." His right arm sank. He directly blocked it. The power of eternity on his arm also fiercely exploded. The head elder's eyes turned sinister as he attacked with all his might. Buzz. Undead power against power of eternity. The moment the two forces collided, rumble. The space around the two continued to shatter as dozens of energy shockwaves shot out. The shockwaves were extremely shocking, as if two planes were colliding. The great elder's pupils contracted. The joints on his fists constantly exploded. Crack, crack, kacha. The joints split. The bones were breaking. The great elder's shriveled body continued to tremble. His complacent expression turned into one of astonishment. His pupils constricted and his face twitched. Bam! Ah! The great elder's body bounced as he was sent flying. Long Fei still stood there, unmoving. Boom! He landed heavily on the ground and flew out several meters. Puffed. The head elder spat out a mouthful of blood. Looking at the blood he spat out, his eyes trembled. No, impossible, absolutely impossible. I can't be hurt. Kacha. His arm was still exploding and bones were falling off one by one. His face turned pale. Blood gushed out again and he spat it out. No, my undead power cannot hurt anyone. No one can hurt me. The surrounding presbyter of God's tribe were all dumbstruck. He had never seen the Grand Elder injured. Never. But this time, however, he was so severely injured that he couldn't even get up at the first moment. How is that possible? As the Great Elder roared, Long Fei walked forward step by step. Like a death god, he stared at the Great Elder and said with a cold smile, "Undead power? What a mess." The great clan elder's eyes turned sinister as he said, Long Fei, you. Long Fei laughed and said, "What about me? What can I use to fight you? What right do I have to fight with you?" Long Fei laughed coldly in disdain and said, "I also wanted to ask you this. Do you think you're very strong? Do you think you can survive without getting hurt? But you're not even a boss. What qualifications does a low-level monster like you have to be so arrogant in front of me?" While they were talking, Long Fei stood in front of the Great Elder, and the energy on his right arm was still burning. Long Fei had only looked at it once since the beginning. Amongst so many presbyter of God's tribe, none of them had reached the level of a boss. In other words, these people were all monsters. Even the elite monsters couldn't compare to them. If they couldn't even deal with these monsters, then what was the point of coming here? The Grand Elder was powerful? The powerful inheritance of the undead power? It was still a mini-monster. Long Fei looked at him. The Great Elder trembled secretly. No, you can't kill me. If you kill me, you will die as well. Your 13 dragon patriarchs will also die. You better find out. Long Fei said coldly, "Release the 13th dragon ancestor." The Great Elder said, "Return to the surface first." Bam! Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Long Fei kicked him hard. The Great Elder's eyes suddenly bulged, and his body curled up in pain. When the surrounding presbyter of God's tribe wanted to rush over, Long Fei swept his cold eyes across them. "All of you scram." As he spoke, he stomped on the Great Elder's body again and said coldly, "Did you hear that? Release them." The Great Clan Elder was in unbearable pain. It was as if his undead power was completely useless in front of Long Fei. completely suppressed, unable to be unleashed at all. Immortality and immortality seemed the same. However, in fact, it was completely different. The power levels were completely different as well. Long Fei's power of eternity came from the one and only eternal coffin in the universe. The eternal coffin came from the immortal world of the sovereign realm, but where did the undead power on the great elder's body come from? Emperor Xian. The power of the Emperor Xian came from the ancient world. The level of the ancient world realm was completely incomparable to the immortal world. Thus, great elder's undead power was as weak as an ant in front of Long Fei's power of eternity. The great elder trembled. Fine, fine, let them go, I'll let them go. His undead power was being crushed, and in order to live, he could only compromise. However, the great clan elder looked at him with hatred. The great clan elder's gaze tightened as he stood up with difficulty. He looked at the 13 presbyter of God's tribe S in the distance and said, "All of you, listen to me." At this moment, buzz, the sky darkened. A pressure that was like a raging sea came crashing down. Long Fei's mind exploded. His body trembled. As though he was about to be crushed by the pressure, he felt extremely uncomfortable. Everyone from God's tribe raised their heads and looked. Ha! Immediately, the great clan elder laughed out loud. He stared at Long Fei excitedly and said, "Brat, it's time for your death." Ha ha! God's tribe will never compromise. You think you can still command me? You're going to die soon. The head elder became even more arrogant, looked at the sky and said, "Lord Luo Sha, it's him. Kill him." Wong, buzz buzz. Wave after wave of pressure came crashing down with an endless aura of power, as if the sky was not the sky, but a 10,000 meters deep ocean, while Long Fei stood at the bottom of the ocean. His body was unable to withstand the pressure. Long Fei's eyes raised slightly and said, "Golden light." A boss finally came. Golden light shot out in all directions. There was no doubt. This guy is a boss. However, whether or not he was a boss was not important right now. The most important thing was the Great Elder. He could order the 13 elders and stop the dragon tendon. It was simply impossible for Long Fei to rush over as soon as he could. They could only let the Grand Elder give the order. Facing the strong pressure, Long Fei moved his idea. Power of Tao Tai absorb. The mini black holes in the pubes began to spin. At the same time, Long Fei grabbed the Great Elder and said, "Let them release the dragon ancestor." The great clan elder stared at Long Fei sinisterly and said, "Brat, you still don't understand? God's tribe will never compromise, and with Lord Luo Sha here, you will soon die." Ha ha, still laughing, right? Long Fei grabbed the great clan elder's neck. His 2 fingers moved as he wanted to pinch the throat of the great clan elder to pieces. However, in an instant, his right hand suddenly lost all of its strength. The Grand Elder was trembling. He thought that he was going to die. But then, his eyes shone with a bright light as he stared at Long Fei and said, "Your strength, your energy is almost used up, right? Ha! Without that strange power, would you have been able to injure me at all?" Indeed, in that instant, the power of eternity suddenly disappeared. Long Fei was unable to continuously use this power. Until now, he still could not completely grasp the power of eternity. His heart tightened, however, and in that instant, the power of eternity surged out once again. The Great Elder was instantly lifted into the air. Long Fei asked, "It couldn't hurt you at all?" The great clan elder's eyes darkened. Sensing the strong power, he immediately said, "Long Fei, you can't kill me. If you kill me, all of your dragon ancestors will die. You can't kill me. If they kill me, they will die as well. Ha ha, let me go. Only by letting me go can they live." Long Fei looked at the Great Elder, then looked at the 13 dragon clans in the distance, and hesitated in his heart. The dragon tendon was already in the hands of the 13 elders. If they pulled harder, the entire dragon tendon would be pulled out. At that time, it was also at this time, the green dragon's pupils suddenly changed. It let out a dragon's roar. Roar. Boss, don't worry about us. Don't worry about us. As the azure dragon spoke, all of the presbyter of God's tribe slightly trembled. Many of the presbyter of God's tribes were shocked. What's going on? Wasn't he living with the seal? Why did he speak? Is the breaking through the seal ready? Cold sweat seeped out of the 4 elders' foreheads as they said, Great Elder, the azure dragon has broken through its bindings. As Long Fei looked at the green dragon, images emerged in his mind. He went from a green dragon tripod to a green dragon ancestor, accompanying him in battles everywhere. Long Fei's heart was going crazy. His strength was also going berserk. The azure dragon said loudly, Boss, we can't handle it anymore. Don't worry about us. The great elder felt that Long Fei's power was going berserk and heavily shouted, Pull out his dragon tendon for me. The moment he finished his words, Long Fei's palm directly crushed the great elder's throat. He was infuriated. The great elder's throat was broken. His primordial spirit was still alive. He looked towards Luosha, who was falling down from the sky, and said, Lord Luosha, save me, save me, save me. Ah! Long Fei roared again. The great power of the berserk force directly crushed the grand elder into dust, and even his primordial spirit was shattered. The 13 elders pulled out their dragon tendons forcefully after receiving the order. Woo! It let out a painful scream. Long Fei's body shot forward, disregarding his own safety. Ah! Luosha heavily fell down. It stood in front of Long Fei, blocking his way. Long Fei's eyes shone with a bloody light, and he said, Scram to the side. The power of eternity on his arm immediately combusted, using his hand as a blade and slashing forward. Raksha's body was split into 2. Instant kill. Explode. The boss was instantly killed with a single move. The boss was instantly killed with a single move. The golden boss's body suddenly split apart, and Long Fei directly went through it. Without even looking at him once, she rushed towards the 13th dragon ancestress. Ah! Long Fei was roaring, completely furious. Seeing the dragon tendon being pulled out, his heart twitched in pain for some reason, as if a steel needle had pierced through it. His body couldn't stop trembling. So much so that Long Fei was not in the mood to listen to the system's notification sound. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing ancient Luosha. Do you wish to absorb it? Long Fei roared. Scram! He was furious to the point that he was extremely fed up with the system's prompting sounds. Originally, the boss drop had been the best notification, but right now, he didn't feel anything. He just wanted to save the dragon ancestor. The system was in charge. He was not that chick now, and would not disappear just because of a single word from Long Fei. The notification sound continued. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Luo Shablade. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Luosha Knight's Soul Orb. These 2 things were also holy artifact grade and were not that good. However, the system beep did not end there. Instead, a voice different from a normal tone of voice suddenly rang. The sound was especially crisp and clear. Ding dong! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing ancient Luosha, for obtaining the system's special reward extermination, Infinite Boxing. The super big boss of the Mighty Martial Saint? Infinite Boxing? Item: Infinite Boxing Grade. Attributes: Destroy Description. Possesses an unlimited combo, an unlimited critical hit. It does not consume any energy. Description 2. Current level. 1 upgradable. This thing. He was simply a perverted existence. What did an unlimited combo mean? This meant that a combo would be able to kill you, even if you had 10 billion HP, plus the infinite critical strike. It could only be described with one word, terrifying to such an extent. In addition, the level of this glove was only 1 level, so it could still be upgraded. This way, it would become even more abnormal. Received very little rewards for his killing and upgrading system. Moreover, the drop rate for this system was very low. Unless it was a boss, no items would drop. Even ancient Luosha would only drop 2 items that didn't amount to much. However, the sudden system reward gave him a fright even in his rage state. What's going on? Did my anger make the system shiver? Otherwise, why would the system suddenly give out a special reward? Long Fei muttered to himself. The idea moved, locking onto the infinite boxing. Ding! Wear it. Yes, sir. Long Fei didn't hesitate at all. His hands slightly lowered, and a special metal glove appeared on his fist. He didn't feel too much, just that he felt that he was firmly holding onto his strength. He didn't think too much about it. The feather god wings moved, boom. His body exploded forward. His entire body charged straight towards the 13 presbyter of God's tribe S. Roar. The green dragon let out a painful dragon's roar. The dragon tendon was pulled out by half, and the green dragon tendon flickered with a green light. It was just like a piece of azure colored glass. As the dragon tendon left his body, the body of the green dragon trembled rapidly. He was being suppressed by the seal. His pain couldn't be released at all. His enormous body couldn't even struggle, but the pain in his subconscious was indescribable. This was the most painful thing. Seeing the dragon veins on the 13 dragons being pulled out one by one, and seeing each and every one of them being pulled out, Long Fei felt as if the marrow in his spine was being pulled out. The pain, the feeling, boom! The feather god wings exploded outwards, as if it was equipped with a propeller. Long Fei's berserk state caused the Taotai beast scales on his body to appear immediately, and his entire body seemed to have transformed into a berserk Taotai beast. The dragon tendon was drawn out now. God's tribe, fuck your ancestors. Why? Woo-woo. Big brother Long Fei was forced into such a state by them. Xiao Bai and the others raised their heads and looked at the sky, watching Long Fei's fury and the 13 dragon tribes' dragon tendons slowly being extracted. Their hearts were also incomparably heavy. He wanted to rush up to the heaven gate, but there was nothing they could do. They could only watch as Long Fei endured by himself. They couldn't understand it, but they knew clearly in their hearts that Long Fei was currently in pain. I've followed Boss for so long, but I've never seen him this angry before. Xiao Bai clenched his teeth and said. Elder Swordsman sighed and said, he is of the dragon race. Who can endure the anger in their heart when they see their own people being tormented like this? Boss, kill them all. Kill them all. Kill them all. In another place, the expressions of the presbyter of God's tribe S all darkened. Even ancient Luosha had been defeated by Long Fei. They seemed unable to accept it. It felt like an illusion. How is this possible? That's the ancient Luosha? Why in a single move? So what if we kill him? I don't believe that he can turn the sky upside down. Meeting the shrine, Guan Tian clan. His brain had reacted very quickly, and he couldn't stay here any longer. Once Long Fei stepped into the God's tribe palace, if he couldn't hold on any longer, the consequences would be. Everyone came to their senses. An elder asked, what about the 13 elders over there? They're dead. Elder's eyes darkened. Go back. What rank of powerhouse was the ancient Luosha? It was much stronger than them. It could crush their existence with just one hand, but was instantly killed by Long Fei. If it did not leave now, it would be like a great clan elder later, and its immortal body would be killed. As for the 13 elders on the other side, they were already dead. Boom! Long Fei landed heavily on the ground. He felt the aura around the Black Dragon King burn as hot as fire. The presbyter of God's tribe's body trembled, his right hand holding onto the dragon tendon tightly. His left hand holding onto the skinned hook, he said, Brat, if you dare to take a step forward, I will immediately cut off his dragon tendon and let him live this life. Bam! His fist moved. He directly blasted out. The head of the presbyter of God's tribe exploded. Long Fei grabbed the dragon tendon and kicked the other half of his body out. The dragon tendon was still throbbing in his hand, and he could feel the black dragon's wails. The black dragon sensed that Long Fei had grabbed its own dragon tendon. At this moment, his wailing stopped, and he said through sound transmission, "Boss, you're finally here." His voice was incomparably weak, trembling. Long Fei's hands were also trembling. His teeth were tightly clenched, and he couldn't say a single word. The black dragon said, "Don't be sad for me. We aren't worth it for you to be sad over. All of our arrangements have been made." It was also at this time. The massive body of the black dragon slightly moved, and a beam of light rose into the air. The light rose black. The light rose black. It looked like a piece of amber. Inside was pure black. The instant this beam of light appeared, Long Fei felt an incomparably powerful energy inside. In that instant, Long Fei also understood. Dragon soul. Long Fei immediately shook his head and said, "No, no, no." The black dragon said weakly, "Boss, this is the last thing I can do for you. This is also the black dragon's mission. We can't do it anymore. We can't save you, but you can't fall down. The dragon clan needs you. This world needs you. Take my last gift." Finished. The black dragon's shadow moved, as if its huge body was kneeling in front of Long Fei. This scene was extremely shocking, causing Long Fei's heart to tighten. With one hand, he gently supported the dragon soul and caught it. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Dragon Soul. Black Dragon gave a faint smile and said, "Thank you, boss." His body slid down from a nail, and his head was split in half by the sharp nail, falling tens of thousands of meters from the sky. The black dragon's two large eyes looked at Long Fei, and then he slowly closed it. He looked at the gash on the top of his head. 0. Then the groove disappeared. This meant death. Long Fei clenched his fists tightly, the joints in his body constantly popping out. The fiery eyes of truth had already turned red. His entire body seemed to have gone berserk. Ah! With a roar, he landed beside the other dragon ancestor. The presbyter of God's tribe was trembling, his lips turning white as he said, "Dragon, Long Fei." Bam! He sent his fist flying. At the same time, the green dragon faintly smiled and said, "Thank you for coming. Please accept our last gift. Don't refuse. This is our final mission. Boss, fighting together with you is the greatest honor of our lives." Buzz, the azure dragon smiled and said, "Boss, you have to walk a more beautiful path in the future. Destroy everything." Rumble, the azure dragon's body fell down as well. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Green Dragon, Dragon Soul. He watched as the azure dragon fell down. Long Fei's heart did not seem to exist, as it was in so much pain that he could not even feel it anymore. His gaze swept across the other 11 presbyter of God's tribe S, and his gaze contained an incomparably fierce and cold killing intent. It was also at this time. Boom! A loud explosion resounded. The shrine door closed, and a light aura enveloped the entire shrine. The 11 elders came to their senses, their eyes darkened as they shouted, "And us, and us." However, the main door of the shrine was not opened, and no one paid attention to them. They knew they had been abandoned. Looking at Long Fei's sinister gaze, they all started to tremble. "Long Fei, we're all God's tribe. You can't kill us, you..." Bam! A furious killing punch. The remaining 10 elders did not dare to linger and immediately ran away. Long Fei right now was simply a god of death, a kind of crazy god of death at that. His appearance was a massacre and endless slaughter. In an instant, boom, bam, the 10 presbyter of God's tribe S escaped. Shrine was filled with disdain. "You useless thing, you actually ran away? This is really embarrassing for God's tribe. He deserves to die. How could there be such a coward in the God's tribe?" Many of the presbyter of God's tribe S mocked him, as they seemed to have forgotten how they escaped into the shrine. "Die! All of you must die." How could Long Fei let them go? There was no use in running around. The aura on Long Fei's body stirred, and the power of eternity that was burning on his right hand swept out. The 10 flames of power chased him like a tracking missile. Boom, boom, rumble. The 10 of them were instantly crushed into fine powder. The system's notification sound also continuously rang out. Long Fei did not pay attention to it from the start and did not think about absorbing their rank. He didn't even look at them. Long Fei shook his head and said, I want all of you to live. I want you to keep fighting with me. We are brothers. Long Fei only had a few short memories. He couldn't even call out their names. He was very angry in his heart. He clenched his fists, his nails digging into the flesh of his palms, causing blood to drip out. Boss, don't be sad. Following you is the most glorious thing in our lives. Boss, this is the day we do this. Boss, boss, boss. The 10 dragon ancestors talked non-stop, but Long Fei could not call out their names. While they were talking, Dragon's soul continued to float out from his body. They all gathered at Long Fei's side. They looked at Long Fei with incomparable determination. Long Fei shook his head and slowly kneeled on the ground, saying, No, I don't want your dragon soul. I want all of you to live. Boss, this is our mission. We've been waiting for this day to come. Yeah, boss, the reason why we exist is for this day. The 13th dragon ancestor S, along with the 9 dragon sword S, these can recreate your ancient dragon body. This is our mission. The golden dragon master said, Do you see the dragon blood lake below us? That is our 13th dragon ancestors, spirit blood. You've gathered 9 of them together with our dragon soul. Spirit can then recreate your ancient dragon body inside it. Long Fei said, I do not believe in any mission. I do not believe in fate. Quickly take back your dragon souls. If you view me as your boss, then listen to me. Golden Dragon Master smiled faintly and said, If we had a next life, we would still be like you, little brothers. Farewell. Golden Dragon Master's body sank. Crack. Walala. The head was shattered. As his body slid down, his golden pupils slightly closed before he closed his eyes. No. Long Fei wanted to grab onto him, but he was simply unable to do so. It was also at this time. Dragon Ancestor's body sank down one after another, allowing the spikes to slice through his head. The bloody grooves on his head became 0 and then disappeared. No. Long Fei sobbed silently. There was nothing he could do as he watched the dragon ancestors fall one by one. He could only watch on helplessly. This feeling was too unbearable. It was as if he was watching his family die one by one. A handful of dragon sword flew out and floated in front of Long Fei and said, Boss, 13 dragon ancestor S use their lives to complete their mission. These dragon soul S are their lives, and they bet everything on you. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Long Fei raised his gaze, eyes like a wild beast, and his body began to fight. The 10 dragon soul were taken into the space ring S. Long Fei looked at the shrine standing tall amidst the clouds, his eyes completely turning a dark red from killing intent. If I don't kill your god's tribe, then I'm not called Long Fei. His killing intent had turned into a sea. Fury burned in the sky. The moment Long Fei stood up, he looked at Shrine, his eyes filled with killing intent. Boom! With one step, the feather god wings rushed forward. Boom! They landed at the entrance of the shrine. At this time, the main entrance of the shrine was enveloped in a halo of light. This was the great palace protection formation of the god's tribe palace, and also the last line of defense outside. It was also the strongest line of defense. No power could shatter it. Standing at the entrance of a shrine, Long Fei strode forward. The instant his body neared the halo of light, his mind exploded as if it was going to explode. The entire flight was directly repelled by the shockwave. Bang, 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 retreating backward continuously. With every step, a deep footprint was left on the ground. Long Fei stood still, his mind still buzzing loudly. Shaking his head, his body sank. He leaned forward slightly, tensed up like a cheetah. Instantly, boom! He pushed with his right foot and rushed forward as fast as lightning. Rumble! He heavily struck the halo of light, which caved in slightly and released a strong elasticity. His entire body was sent flying. Bam! Long Fei landed on the ground and retreated quickly. The buzzing in his head became even louder. Ha ha ha! Ha ha! Brat, you want to break through the palace protecting array? Dream on. I can't even imagine what kind of place this is. How could a little bastard like you be able to break into such a place? Presbyter of God's tribe clamored. Seeing Long Fei being sent flying by the array, they all laughed. This was a formation personally set up by the Emperor Xian. They didn't even know the name of this formation, but there was one thing. He was the strongest defensive formation up till now. No one could break it. Even the ancient strong S were slightly shocked. It seemed like Long Fei had only attacked twice, but the defensive power the array displayed was extremely strong. What a powerful defense. This formation should be brought out by the ancient world, right? It seems to be the god's defense tactical method technique used by the defensive dragons back in the day. I never thought that the Emperor Xian would be able to take this kind of formation out of the ancient world. He really is a genius. God's defense tactical method. No wonder this is really linked to the heavens. Let alone this place, even if it's the ancient world S, no one can break this link. It seems like this kid won't be able to come in. All right, we'll save some trouble. Several powerhouse S glanced at Long Fei. They knew that Long Fei would never be able to break this formation. Hearing ancient world's words, those presbyter of God's tribe S became even more pleased with themselves. Did you hear that? You won't be able to break this formation. Brat, you think you could defeat God's tribe? How good are you? Is he even worthy of being a piece of trash like him? Dragons are all lackeys of our God's tribe. It's not like you have not heard the dragon ancestors learn to bark like dogs. That's really a nice name. Ha ha ha. Coincidentally, I have a sound receiver. Let it out for him to hear. Dragons are like dogs. Ha ha. One of the elders took it out and activated its power. Immediately, the sound of presbyter of God's tribe teasing 13th dragon ancestor could be heard coming from inside the recording. Come and learn to bark like a dog. Woof woof. Ha ha. It's really a dog's bark. What kind of dragon is this? It's clearly a dog. It's born to be a dog's material. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Kid, did you hear that? Do you want to hear it again? Dragons learn to bark like dogs. It's exactly the same as dogs. Born to be a dog. The death of the 13th dragon ancestor provoked Long Fei. He was enraged. The 13 dragon ancestor S offered up their dragon soul S one by one for him, and spirit blood's body flowed with light, as his skin and tendons were peeled off, and his head was split in half. He died an incomparably miserable death. But even if they died, they would still be humiliated. The flames of fury on Long Fei's body burned like the dark red, killing intent in his eyes. It was as if he had been demonized. Crap. He's going to go berserk. There's a demonic aura surrounding him. He's almost about to lose control of it. Tang Long immediately said, clenching his fists tightly, he said, "If you become bewitched, the consequence will be." Xiaobai said, "Boss can control himself. God's tribe, these sons of bitches." Bing was said in a low voice. Not to mention Long Fei. Their eyes were also completely bloodshot, and they truly wished they could charge forward and kill him. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Cracks appeared in the space around Long Fei, burned and broken by the flames released from his body. He stared at the halo. Phew. Suction. Whoosh. Inhale. Breath thickened. His fists sank slightly. Looking at the infinite boxing in his hand, he said, "Tyrant Destroyer Infinite Boxing, today let me see how many levels you can reach consecutively." Bam! Long Fei's body sputtered out as he pushed himself forward. He flew into the air and landed heavily. Ha ha ha! He's back. He'll be sent flying again soon. Ha ha! Little bastard, your dragon clan is being stepped on by us. Long Wushan has to kneel on the ground when he sees us. How dare you jump? Just you wait. Seeing Long Fei flying over once again, the presbyter of God's tribe mocked. They knew that Long Fei would be sent flying by the god's defense tactical method soon. However, the instant Long Fei landed, his fist exploded, smashing heavily into the halo of light. Logically speaking, in this sort of situation, When the god's defense tactical method encountered such a strong attack power, it would instantly devour it and bounce back, sending Long Fei flying. However, just as he was about to catapult away, another punch landed. Bam! Bam! There was no gap between his fists at all. It was as if Long Fei had countless of hands as his fists continued to rain down like a torrential storm. A sound of explosion could be heard. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, 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 bang. They simply did not give the god's defense tactical method any chance. He didn't want to give him the chance to shoot himself out. He wanted to shoot him down. There was no formation in this world that could not be broken. No matter how strong the defense was and how powerful the formation was, there was still a way to break through the formation. The method Long Fei used was the most crude and also the most direct method. Violent bombing. Unbreakable fist. 10,000 fists. 1 million punches. 10 million punches. I'm asking you if you can break it or not. Long Fei's fist was as fast as lightning and thunder. The infinite boxing, infinite strike, was also in the midst of an unending series of critical strikes. In his system world, his moves had already reached a total of 108,000 times. The light halo caved in, and Long Fei smashed into the light halo. This time, all of the presbyter of God's tribe were silent. Looking at Long Fei, who was trapped in the light, all of them were stunned. He couldn't say a word. Even some of the elders' bodies began to tremble. It's about to break. It's about to break. The god's defense tactical method is splitting. He was like a lunatic, constantly bombarding towards death. He was like a lunatic, constantly bombarding towards death. The infinite boxing's continuous barrage of attacks had completely crushed the entire god's defense tactical method. Its power was completely suppressed and was simply unable to be unleashed. Every single formation had its own limits. The limit. As long as this extreme was broken, the formation would be broken. Long Fei's crude method was not something any formation could withstand. So, under Long Fei's berserk attacks, the formation cracked. The cracks were like that of ice, as ear-piercing gidge sounds resounded. The cracks also crazily spread outwards with Long Fei as the center. Countless cracks appeared on the halo of light. Seeing this situation, the expressions of the presbyter of God's tribe and disciples all changed. Impossible. Impossible. This kind of great protective formation for the shrine, this is a formation personally laid down by the Emperor Xian, a perfect formation. No amount of power can break through it. It's impossible for it to break. It can't be broken. They did not believe everything that was happening before them. Who was the Emperor Xian? As the paragons of this world, the array formation that he laid down was extremely powerful and unbreakable. Furthermore, Long Fei's method to break through it was even more impossible. But now, the light was breaking apart. It wasn't because they said that they wouldn't crack if they didn't crack. The ancient strong who were cultivating in the shrine all flew out one after another. They felt a powerful energy surging within them. And when they saw that Long Fei was about to destroy the god's defense tactical method, they couldn't help but be shocked as well. Seems like the dragon race has some skill after all. Looking at his crazy appearance, why do I feel like he's a little like the former head dragon? Long Batian? Even he was just crazy back then. Long Batian was suppressed by the repression of boundary stones, and then he fell, and his corpse was still not found. Could it be that he was reincarnated? As soon as the ancient world finished speaking, everyone's gaze tightened. They did not know that they knew Long Fei. They only knew that he was a descendant of the dragon race. Back then, they were suppressed by the three families of the dragon, Annihilation and Tang. The seal was the most tyrannical race among them. When they saw the dragon race back then, they felt as if they had seen the Grim Reaper. In these billions of years, the hatred in their hearts did not disappear. Instead, it slowly turned into hostility, and they waited for the day they saw the light of day once again. They were always thinking of revenge. From the moment they entered the universal realm, they started to slaughter everyone crazily. It didn't matter if you were a descendant of the dragon clan. exterminating the Tang clan, or a descendant of the Tang clan. Anyone with the surname of one of the three families would die. In a short year, the three surnames of Universal Realms, Inner Dragon, Tang, and Annihilation had all been killed. His methods were cruel. This was how they came to seek revenge and exterminate their clan. If not for the fact that ancient world's dragon race was hiding in a relatively hidden place, and if Emperor Xian didn't stop them, they would have killed all the people of the dragon race. Now, Long Fei appeared. Moreover, it displayed endless strength, causing them to think of the reincarnation of Long Batian. At this moment, their auras changed. No matter who it is, as long as it's someone from the dragon clan, then they deserve to die. We definitely can't spare him. Die, he must die. A few ancient strong-s thought back to the torments they had experienced in the past few years, and their expression all became sinister, staring at Long Fei like wild beasts. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. While the attacks were still going crazy, more and more cracks appeared on the halo. The god's defense tactical method was completely unable to continue anymore. A presbyter of God's tribe came over and said, "Masters of the ancient world, the god's defense tactical method art should not be able to hold on for long. Following up will be." Not waiting for him to finish, a ancient strong landed heavily and directly pushed him to the side. His eyes revealed a sinister look as he stared coldly at Long Fei, who was inside the light barrier. The elder immediately said, "Understood." He wished for this to happen. The great clan elder's undead power was blasted to death. Even the ancient inheritance on their bodies would not be able to withstand such an attack from Long Fei. He quickly returned to the god's tribe and reported to the other presbyter of God's tribe. Many of the presbyter of God's tribe heaved a sigh of relief. The oppressive atmosphere had also disappeared. "Elder, they've all come out. All 38 ancient strong have arrived. And they seem to be talking about Long Batian." Who is Long Batian? Who cares who he is, as long as they appear to deal with this little bastard? Fortunately, Emperor Xian had the foresight to leave behind so many ancient strong. If not, one of the elders glared with his sword-like eyebrows and said, "What else can we do? Is there a need to be afraid of him? We all have the power of the ancient inheritance." Afraid of him? This is the shrine. Why should we be afraid of him? We are the God's tribe. This elder was extremely disdainful. Many of the presbyter of God's tribe had their expressions turn ugly after hearing what he said. Indeed, all these years, they had never come across a powerhouse that could threaten their lives. They were always on the top, always looking down on everything else, and viewed the playthings of the universal realm as ants. They were used to being arrogant and proud, yet Long Fei was so out of their minds. However, their sudden appearance caused their nerves to tense up, causing them to panic and be at a loss of what to do. After hearing what he said, all of them slowly regained their composure and said, "You are right. We are from the God's tribe, a supreme race, so why should we be afraid of him? Elder, kill him later? Don't worry. Let the ancient strong take action first." During this time, they have been arrogantly displaying their might in the shrine, absorbing the resources of the shrine. It is about time they put in some effort. You're right. Bang, bang, bang. Kacha, kacha, kacha. The cracks on the god's defense tactical method were cracking, and Long Fei's infinite boxing had already hit it 8 million times. Not to mention a formation. Even if it was a boss, how could it withstand over 3 million combo attacks? The boss was probably flying in the sky and couldn't come down at all. Long Fei's eyes turned red, and like King Kong, he threw out a punch at the same time. "Break for me." Rumble, rumble, rumble. The god's defense tactical method caved in, and one light ray after another turned into fragments, before disappearing into nothingness. The entire universal realm heard the sound of the god's defense tactical method shattering. Presbyter of God's tribe's face were all gloomy. All their eyes were staring at Long Fei. The ancient strong did the same as they coldly stared at Long Fei. Long Fei landed on the ground and stood at the entrance of the shrine. He took a step forward and directly stepped into the shrine. With his gloomy eyes looking at the inside of the shrine, he bellowed with a heavy tone. "Emperor Xian, get the fuck out here right now." His voice was filled with rage and killing intent. His voice was filled with rage and killing intent. In an instant, the killing intent released from Long Fei's voice filled the entire shrine. Descendant of God's tribe walked out of the houses one by one. To them, no one had ever dared to be so loud in the shrine, nor did they dare to release such a strong killing intent. Who's tired of living? Who's so arrogant? Isn't he too arrogant? Is this person courting death? Some of the God's tribe's elders were furious. No one had ever dared to be impudent in the God's tribe, not even the ancient world, because they were God's tribe, because they were the descendants of the Emperor Xian. To call the Emperor Xian out by name, this had undoubtedly enraged the bottom line of the people of the God's tribe. Boom! The moment Long Fei's voice fell, an ancient strong figure flashed and descended from the sky like a thunderbolt as he stood 10 meters away from Long Fei. "You are that Long family brat?" Long Fei's eyes turned sinister as he said one word, "Scram." Ancient Strong's face darkened. The chi around his body suddenly changed. Buzz! The immense power formed an extremely strong pressure. The pressure condensed into substantive energy, causing the space to shatter as an ancient beast pounced towards Long Fei. Roar! With a roar, the big mouth was about to swallow Long Fei up. Enveloped by Yin, it pounced down from all directions. Long Fei's eyes turned sinister. The infinite boxing gripped and heavily shouted, "Scram!" Boom! He wanted to throw a punch out, but a shadow of a person appeared behind Long Fei and a battle axe flew out. Bam! Rumble! With a heavy blow, the countless devils on the devil's bat leaks howled, instantly decapitating the ancient beast's shadow and shattering it. Kwang Wang stood in midair and stared coldly at Ancient Strong in the distance, and said indifferently, "Didn't you hear what my bosses said? I told you to scram. Scram. Do you understand?" The savage king rushed over. From the looks of it, the Zhang Mo below shrine should have been taken care of by him. He went on stage in a very domineering manner. He raised his battle axe, and with a heavy swing, he placed it on his shoulder. He glanced sideways and coldly looked at a group of Ancient Strong in the distance. "Do you know? Very arrogant, very pretentious. Isn't that fellow from the Ancient Strong a powerful monster? How could he be so arrogant?" All of the Ancient Strong looked at the raging king with displeasure. Kwang Wang said sloppily, "Are you not happy with Lousy? Who the hell is going to come out? See how I kill him." Long Fei took a step forward. The savage king said, "Boss, you should rest at the side. Leave his place to me." As he spoke, he looked at Long Fei's right arm, because the power released by Long Fei's right arm was now different from before. Long Fei's power of eternity had always been in the process of being released and had been excessively exhausting itself. Although Long Fei had already stepped into the threshold of the power of eternity, this was only the initial stages, so using it like this was extremely disadvantageous for Long Fei. Furthermore, with Long Fei's current state, if he were to continue exhausting himself, there would be serious problems. Long Fei did not feel that his power of eternity was overdrawn. His heart was filled with killing intent. They must all die. The word dead was particularly heavy. The killing intent was extremely heavy. What a strong killing intent. No way. If Boss is in such a bad state, it will definitely cause him a lot of trouble in the future. Immediately, the Kwang Wang didn't care that much and naively smiled. "Did you hear that? All of you must die." As soon as he finished, the ferocious king took a step forward. At this moment, one of the Ancient Strong's eyes turned sinister. "The ones who died should be you too." He then leapt into the air, and the sky instantly split open. A gigantic sword in the fissure rumbled through the air like a beam of light. "You bunch of ants! How dare you act so arrogantly in front of us? Die!" Thunder, tyrant sword. Kill! As soon as his voice fell, the gigantic sword the color of Shuana slashed down heavily. It was as if magic had locked onto the Wild King. No matter how fast the Wild King was, it was impossible to dodge. However, the Savage King had never even thought of dodging. There was no such word in his life dictionary. The reason he was called Wild King was because of his extreme arrogance. Defensive dodging? It doesn't exist. The devil's bat leaks move. Crash! Asterisk crackling noises could be heard as they instantly fell and directly stood in front of the ancient strong. The corners of his mouth slightly hooked up as he said, "Die." A simple word. Ancient Strong's pupils constricted as he said anxiously, "You're thinking too much." A golden light surrounded his body as the defense of a defensive treasure exploded. The astral energy in the astral energy was like a magic shield that enveloped him in an instant. The Savage King trembled slightly. Defense. That's useless. We still have to die. The veins on his arm popped, his strength increased, and his axe slashed through the heaven and earth as it flew towards Ancient Strong. However, a power attacked. It seemed to pass right by Kwang Wang's side. The violent king's mind slightly sank, and when he recovered from his shock, his gaze changed. Boss. It was unknown when Long Fei suddenly rushed forward, but he was even faster, almost in a single step. Even faster, before Kwang Wang's axe could land. Long Fei's right hand punched out. Bam! A fist struck Ancient Strong's chest. The protective air shield on Ancient Strong's body shattered. His body caved in, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. A long wound on his head dropped to the ground, but he was not instantly killed. Air! Kwang Wang muttered, "Boss, I can't kill him." Ancient Strong also stared at Long Fei and bellowed, "You dog, you actually dare to sneak and attack me. See how I'm going to—" Before he could finish his words, Long Fei's fists exploded outwards. Bang, 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 bang. A series of attacks. 2 combo. 368 combo attacks. The almighty infinite boxing and the power of eternity that erupted from Long Fei's body completely crushed that Ancient Strong, and fresh blood unceasingly sprayed out. The worst part was that Long Fei had specially set up a place for them. In just a second, the long gash on Ancient Strong's head turned into a single-digit number. His chest was instantly pierced and exploded. Die. Boom. In the end, his final punch exploded, causing Long Fei to stomp his foot on the head of that Ancient Strong. He looked at the Wild King from the corner of his eyes and said, "You're too slow. Stay by my side." Mad King is crazy? Right now, it was as if Long Fei was teaching him a lesson. Moreover, the Savage King wasn't able to refute him. He could only look at Long Fei's back and mutter, "You're awesome. Forget it, I'll let you be awesome." He could only let Long Fei in his current state. If he were to forcefully stop him, the murderous rage in Long Fei's heart might not be released at all. Moreover, he was very clear about Long Fei's style of doing things. "I owe you one." Kwang Wang scratched his head and stood to the side. He glanced at the Ancient Strong and said in a low voice, "Boss, you have to be more careful." Kwang Wang scratched his head and stood to the side. He glanced at the Ancient Strong and said in a low voice, "Boss, you have to be more careful." Long Fei ignored him. Right now, he was thinking about one thing: kill everyone in the shrine. Long Fei's killing intent surged. He looked at the Ancient Strong and said, "All of you will die. All of you will die." Boom. Too arrogant. Forget about you being Long Baitian's reincarnation. Even if you were Long Batian from the Peak Realm, you should die for me today. One of the Ancient Strong moved. His hands quickly formed a seal. Streams of power were released from his fingers. Flames curled up around them as they spread across the sky. Roar! A roar! An ancient demon beast rushed out from the sky. Its gigantic body had countless tentacles, just like an alien monster in science fiction. Incomparable savagery. He quickly rushed towards Long Fei. The corner of Long Fei's mouth drew back and said, "It's too slow." Bam! With the support of his right foot, he instantly dashed forward, landing in front of that Ancient Strong. That Ancient Strong's pupils tightened, and with his super divine reaction speed, his body was about to fly out. "Leave. Die." He grabbed his feet, and before Ancient Strong could fly, they smashed onto the ground heavily. Bam! A deep pit appeared on the ground. Long Fei's body flipped and landed in the deep pit. The infinite boxing burst out with fist after fist of heavy explosions, specially aiming at Ancient Strong's face. Bang, bang, bang. It was like a high-speed motor. In just a second, he had hit the bottom. Ding! Congratulations to the sickly Long Fei for killing Ancient Strong and releasing the absorbed cultivation. Long Fei ignored him. He pulled out his blood-stained fist, raised his eyes, and stared at the Ancient Strong. Carry him away next. A domineering aura. Unstoppable. 1 per second. 2 Ancient Strong-s in a row were fiercely killed by Long Fei with their fists. And once they were struck by Long Fei, they had no chance to escape. Infinite chain strike, infinite explosion. You have no way to escape. On the presbyter of God's tribe side, the people who were originally charging up all had gloomy expressions. The strength that Long Fei displayed was too terrifying. How come he's stronger than the powerhouse that came here from the ancient world? One every second, he's completely a monster. Is he really from the dragon race? What should we do? What should he do? If the Ancient Strong could not stop him, then we inform Emperor Xian. Quickly go to Emperor Xian Palace and notify Emperor Xian. There's no need to inform anyone. Just now, with the death of the Great Elder and the fall of the undead power, Emperor Xian should have sensed it immediately. Emperor Xian will definitely rush back. What if? If there's no chance, the Emperor Xian will definitely not allow anyone to destroy the God's Tribe Palace. If it doesn't work out, we still have other options. When the elders heard the 2 words retreat path, their expressions tensed up because they knew where the retreat path was. Ancient world. The shrine was the place where the universal realm was connected to the ancient world. The reason the God's tribe was stationed here was to protect the entrance and to prevent others from entering. However, not everyone could enter the ancient world because different planes and laws existed. Once an imbalance was created, the physical body would be crushed in a fine powder. Furthermore, ancient world was too dangerous. The God's tribe was born in the ancient world, but ever since the Emperor Xian won against him, the God's tribe moved out of the ancient world and continued to reproduce and reproduce in the universal realm. This was also a deliberate arrangement by the Emperor Xian. Hopefully, I won't need to use retreat. One of the elders gave a long cry. On Ancient Strong's side, they were not in chaos. They were very calm, but everyone was furious. He was very unhappy about Long Fei's arrogance. Boom! Lame duck. See how I'll take care of you. Cloud sword. 10,000-ly slash. An old man wearing a purple robe with a sword on his back flew out. The spirit chi on his body exploded out. The clouds in the sky instantly condensed into a huge sword that chopped down at Long Fei. Rumble! Rumble! The sky split open. An extremely strong pressure bore down on Long Fei. Moreover, after the purple-robed elder took out the cloud sword, his body suddenly disappeared, directly entering the void, giving Long Fei no chance to lock onto himself. They were all veterans and would never make the same mistake twice. In the beginning, the 2 Ancient Strong-s were both killed by Long Fei's chaotic fists, but this time, absolutely not. Buzz. Rumble. The sky exploded, and the violet-robed old man was nowhere to be seen. Many Ancient Strong-s sneered. Let's see how you will kill me now. This little bastard's gauntlet is a bit special. I just observed it carefully. His gauntlet seems to be able to strike without limit. Furthermore, his cultivation is at the lowest level in universal realm. The primordial spirit energy in his body cannot sustain him at all. It can be seen that the glove is definitely not of ordinary quality. Ancient Strong already said that it was not of ordinary rank. It could be seen that the gloves on Long Fei's hands were truly powerful. Several Ancient Strong-s also agreed. That's right, his gloves are indeed special, but his strength is not only from his boxing gloves. The power released from his right hand is the strongest. I have never seen the power of his right hand before, but I can guarantee that it definitely wasn't from Universal Realm. nor was it from ancient world. Could he have gone to another world? Foreign lands? Zhang Xian was shocked. One of the powerhouse-s looked at the Wild King and said, it's possible that the aura this big guy is training with is not the power of the universal realm. It's possible that he's a powerhouse from another realm. But didn't the void hole not open? How did outer space powerhouse get in? Is there another way? There is only one place in the ancient world that could be linked to other realms, and that was the void hole. Although the seal inside had been destroyed by the Emperor Xian, and all the demons that were left behind in the ancient world had all come out, but the void hole had not opened, so it was impossible for people from the other realms to enter. Don't worry so much for now. Let's kill this little bastard first. The sky darkened. The huge sword formed from the clouds came slashing down. Long Fei stood where he was and didn't move. He was looking for the location of the purple-robed elder. Can't find it. He couldn't see his position at all. It was also here all of a sudden. Golden runes flashed, and a golden rune suddenly appeared in midair. Kuang Wang was startled and looked to the side. Young Taoist. Young Taoist broke through the god tribe's formation and stepped into the shrine. He lightly said, "Boss, it's over there." Long Fei raised his eyes. Boom! The moment the sword fell, it rose up from the ground. His fist moved. Explode for me. A fist blasted through space, heavily smashing into the chest of that powerhouse. With a grab of Long Fei's 5 fingers, he directly pulled him out of the air and flipped behind him. And then, the fist that was like a violent storm crazily smashed downwards. 1 second. Blood Meridian, 0. Carry him away, and he will be next. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.